Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
What's up, y'all? How's it going? Happy Thursday. Talking the Bible and Florida, specifically the book of Genesis and the Garden of Eden in Florida, which I know we've talked about quite a bit on this channel, but Juan and I were talking, and Juan's had some questions about the gopher wood recently, and we've been tackling, some esoteric Florida history. And so we thought we would reapproach the question, if the Garden of Eden was in Florida, then where or what are the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil? So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. We've got some great stuff planned. What's up, Juan Titor?
Why do I have to be the black guy on the Miami Vice intro? Why can't you be the black guy and me the white guy? Why does it?
Is he black to you, Juan?
Is he black? Is he?
No es negro, soy dominicano.
Miami Vice.
Nunca. No.
No. That sounds too close, bro. Relax. So, what's the guy's name?
Well, there's Don Johnson.
Rico. All right, Rico.
And who's the actor's name?
The actor's name for Rico is Ricardo Tubbs, right?
No, that's his character.
Oh,
Rico's short for. His name is
Phillips Michael Thomas.
Yes. Yep. There you go. I forgot.
So,
longtime vegetarian, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right. So yes, he is black. So
no, he's Caribbean. Okay, just like you. So close enough.
All right. Yeah, close enough. I guess I'll let it slide.
He pretends to be like Bahamian, I think. So Taino-ish, not so far off.
I haven't watched the show. Did we ever watch an episode of? No, we were going to. Well, Puerto Ricans are always late to everything. So
are they?
Oh yeah, dude, 100%. It's like, what time are you on? Puerto Rican time or Gringo time? And Puerto Ricans are always late, so I'm used to it. It's not that big of a deal. But yes, I'm excited to be here. We were kind of, along the same line of thought that we've been talking about these past few weeks about Florida, right? That's always been the topic, right? Florida, old world history, things of that nature. And it still blows my mind that where the gopher wood is found is around that, right? The FAG border, the Florida and Georgia border, in that area. And that still blows my mind. So it's like, it specifically says in the book of Genesis, like that, the gopher wood, and it wouldn't make any other sense for it to be in some other place if the wood isn't there. It's very specific. So that part still blows my mind. And we were talking today, and I have a presentation that I've been talking about for a long time that I'm going to do, and I haven't gotten around to doing it. That involves palm trees, alchemy, the book of Genesis, things of that nature. And I think it ties kind of in to what we talk about. And it's interesting once you start looking at the palm tree, how much you start to see it over and over and over again. So I want to talk a little bit about that today. Obviously, Genesis, Garden of Eden, Florida, all that stuff. And I'm ready, bro. Or are you sniffing there? What is that?
Just some poppers, Juan. Don't worry. No, it's rosemary oil.
What is it supposed to do? Is it supposed to calm you down? Activating. Oh, he's activating. But you were sipping
um,
on some other stuff earlier, huh? Some other type of rosemary.
the hell are you talking about?
Talking about before the show, pre-show activities. That's why you're always late, bro.
Oh, so, you mean?
The electric lettuce,
Mm-hmm.
you know? All
Yeah,
right.
might indulge in that time to time. But
From time to time. Yeah, check out
so
this slide that I made, bro. I made this slide
speaking
like
of
2 years ago.
speaking of trees, okay. Uh,
Hey.
this is a pretty cool background here. See this for 1 sec.
Bro, I made this presentation like 2 years ago.
You put me on there
Of course, bro. This is when this is before you transition, dude.
before I transitioned.
Yeah.
What, from van life to house life?
Yeah, actually.
That's what really
All right.
happened.
All right. Here we go. All right, where do you want to start before we get into all that? Where are we at? Why are we not on screen? Here we are. All
Yeah,
right.
there we go.
So the what does the OG Callaway say about this? Because right, the Garden of Eden for people, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, there's various stories around it, there's various ideas. The Garden of Eden was a more of a metaphysical thing. Some other people can talk about it actually being a physical place that can actually be gone to. So I've heard some people talk about being a state of mind, right? The innocence of that time, et cetera, et cetera. What is Callaway, the OG who talked about the Garden of Eden being in Florida? What did he propose that the Garden of Eden was, and where all the tree of life and all this other stuff was at?
Yeah, so Tree of Life, I might need to jog my memory on. Um, I don't think he dives too deep on it. But for the tree of knowledge of good and evil, for the fruit, forbidden fruit, the poison apple, he definitely supports more of like a symbolic interpretation. He believes that the fruit of knowledge of good and evil is free will itself. So the first decision to go against one of God's clear instructions was man's decision to engage in free will, to yeah. And he says that yes, it was woman who he kind of takes a feminist approach, to be honest. He says woman, like Eve, Mother Eve, was braver than Adam or willing to deviate from the plan. And he says something along the lines of she should be applauded for that great decision. That the conditions of Eden were not proper to man and woman's soul. So he kind of has like a little bit of a Gnostic approach, or like a, dare I say, a Luciferian interpretation, which I don't mean Luciferian in like the Illuminati, oh, Satanism, everything's evil sense. Luciferianism is, or just kind of venerating Lucifer or free will or liberty above other things. That's what I qualify as Luciferianism is placing liberty above truth, placing free will above following God's plan. But it shouldn't really surprise us too much because LV Edison Callaway was a Freemason and a Shriner, so he may have been influenced by some of their
Illuminati confirmed.
by some of their interpretations. So, when you peel back some layers on some of these hermetic orders, they think they have a refined understanding of Lucifer that, well, it's okay if everyone thinks he's the bad guy, but we really know he's the good guy. And I don't endorse all of that, but you know, I think you have to kind of eventually see where they're coming from when you study enough of this stuff, right? Secret societies, and so I don't know if that's you know what influenced his perspective on it, but he basically said Mother Eve made the right decision and um, and
And I think some people too that right are against religion will take that side just because it goes against the mainstream, right? So everybody loves God, so therefore they're gonna hate it and they're gonna do the opposite and they're gonna right be more Luciferian and look towards that side, right? The satanic temple, things of that nature, where they're like, oh yeah, we don't worship the devil. We just like to live, right? And like have this sort of free will and things like that. And um one of the interesting things about the story of in the Garden of Eden is that depending on which interpretation you read, it can in the Gnostic sense, it was about the demiurge. Sophia flies down as an eagle, and or she's as a serpent, one of the two. And she tells Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil so that they can learn that they're in this matrix controlled by the demiurge Aldebaoth at the time, right? Because in the Gnostic sense, the devil character sort of created reality and put man in it and made him from himself because he was jealous essentially, right? He wants to be a creator. So again, and that kind of perverts and inverts everything, but there's just different interpretations of it of like, hey, what was the Garden of Eden scene, which is really interesting because how you talked about these two polar opposites, the alchemists saw it as like breaking down right from the alchemical process, breaking and separating the two halves. Because what I really one of my favorite aspects of this whole thing is the alchemical interpretation of the book of Genesis because they saw it as the blueprints to create the philosopher's stone. They saw it as the great because they look at God as the great architect of the great alchemist, right? And the watchers are watching the great alchemist at work, create and uncreate reality. So, and that's where you got the Book of Enoch, Zosimus of Panopolis, which was one of the earliest alchemists. He loved the Book of Enoch, and in the Book of Enoch, right, the Nephilim alchemy comes from the Nephilim. So it's the forbidden art. So it kind of gives it like this interdimensional demonic connotation where it was passed down from the watchers, right, the Nephilim and all these things. It gives it a supernatural origin. So, but yeah, I see where you're coming from, and I think some people would go with the more Luciferian route because it's cool, right? Metal, it's awesome, and yeah, I want to bring up here this picture, or go ahead and we'll bring up. I want to bring up this picture in a little bit because it's got a different because the tree. Everyone when they think of the Garden of Eden, they think about an apple, right? But it was never specifically said that it was an apple, right? It wasn't an apple tree.
that's a great place to start. Yeah.
So was it an orange? Was it a golden apple? A golden apple is kind of like an orange, right? Or was it something else? And that's where we get into right. I'll let you start and then we can get into the palm tree stuff a little bit too.
Right. So as you were talking, I was trying to check what E. Calloway wrote about the tree of life because I remember what he said about the tree of knowledge of good and evil. But and he said just real quick before we get into that, he said, and we all eat of the fruit of knowledge of good and evil right up until this day. So he's not like endorsing it, whatever. It's more just like, I don't know. He's all right. So now the tree of life. Um,
Is this the only
If
video clip of
someone's
him,
someone's
bro?
talking here, I'll be right back.
Yeah. I was probably another homeless man. Or did somebody order him pizza and put his address? I think that's happened like twice while we've been on air. Somebody's bought him pizza and they have it delivered to the store. But I'm wondering if I want to pull up a video of Callaway, but I don't know if this is the only video of him talking about the biblical Garden of Eden. And he says it's in Torreya State Park. So like the fact that he points out an actual place that you could go to, which we should probably do a meetup there one day. I think we're long overdue for a meetup. I have to talk to Longo about that. But where is this place? This is by Dance Forest by Tallahassee. So let's wait for, let me pull it up here. While we wait for Longo to fight that homeless man that knocked on the door. So Torreya State Park, 13,000 acres, Florida State Park, United States. It is located north of Bristol. And this is where he says it's at. And I want to play this video of Callaway talking about it. And Mr. Callaway recites passages from the Bible that describe the mystical garden and compares them to features along the Apalachicola River. He attests that two features of the landscape prove his claim. The first is that the Apalachicola River is the only river in the world with 4 heads. The second is the presence of the gopher wood tree, which Noah used to build the ark. According to Callaway, the Bible claims that both elements were unique to the legendary garden, and they are unique to Torreya State Park. So it looks like Longo won that fight with the homeless man. What did the homeless guy want, bro?
It wasn't a homeless guy, but it was the store next door or across the street who I told to be quiet earlier. So they came back to apologize. So
Oh, that's nice. Great people. I was
yeah,
gonna
they're good.
ask you, bro, is this the only video of Callaway talking, or is there more?
Video, I believe so.
So it's the only
There,
one.
yeah. He gave a interview for like a oral history project or something that's out there somewhere. He wrote one book and then he wrote In the Beginning. So he wrote The Other Side of the South in the beginning, and then he wrote many newspaper articles as a commentator. You know, he'd respond to things. He was a well-known guy in Florida for a long time. But so
And he
okay,
was a Mason, huh?
he was a Freemason. Yes, he was. I think he said he was a master mason, and you have to be one to become a Shriner. So
Mm, mm. Okay. Yeah, and I was just talking about that. He talks about it being an actual place that you can technically we could go visit right now if we wanted to, right? Like we can go here and
yeah,
walk around where he claims that the
yeah,
Garden of Eden was at.
yeah. There's a couple places you can go. There's Torreya State Park. There's the Garden of Eden Trail, which is like a separate park, and the whole Apalachicola River area is pretty much the area he's talking about. Um,
Oh
and
wow.
that FAG region, you
Yep.
know,
Yep.
so a little bit of Alabama, a little bit of Georgia. Um, yeah, every Lake Seminole, you know, is a popular fishing spot. So much agriculture comes out of that area. I mean, that is one of the breadbaskets and like, you know, agricultural powerhouses of America's South Georgia, North Florida, right over there. Um, corn, well, no, peanuts. They do a lot of satsuma, some other stuff.
And you know, one of the interesting things because you see in let me find it here. So speaking of Freemasonry, there is the symbol of the beehive in Freemasonry, right? And what's interesting
Mm.
about the beehive is that I've seen this around where the bee is one of the only, I guess, animal you can call it an animal that left unchanged from the Garden of Eden, right?
Mm.
So I've heard that before, and I'm like, you know, why these people, and by these people, I'm talking about these secret societies and these secret circles, they use these symbols for a reason. Now, is it because they want to tap into that energy, blah blah blah. That's all speculation, but they use it for a reason, right? What it represents. And what if one of those reasons for using the bee, and then obviously the concept of the we talked about this, didn't we? Where we talked about the beekeepers living the longest being one of the occupations that
Yep.
they live the longest because of the frequencies, right?
We did a whole episode on Yuli's Gold,
Oh yeah, that's right.
the movie set in kind of that area, not super close, but more or
Yeah.
less. And that was all about the Tupelo honey and Callaway. So there were no honeybees in America before Columbus, allegedly. Okay. Maybe in some distant ancient time, but Callaway believed that there were beehives, like fossilized beehives, in that Garden of Eden area, Apalachicola area. And when the Mormons came around and started coming up with some of their theories, well, Joseph Smith was long before Callaway, but afterwards they started trying to figure out where did these characters in the Book of Mormon land. One of the top uh, proposed locations for where did the Mormons, the ancient Israelites land in America? The Apalachicola River. This guy, Wayne May, who's a really good researcher, amateur archaeologist. I don't use amateur disparagingly. Maybe he's not amateur. I don't know. But he's definitely counter, more.
Establishment. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He's off the mainstream. So, but he makes really good presentations. Wayne May, really good stuff. If you ever want to give the Mormon history a chance, Wayne May is pretty cool. And he goes through like the Hopewell culture and all this stuff. So he points to, and some other proponents of that theory, they point to Lehi, Nephi, Layman landing in the same river that E. Calloway says the Gopher Wood and Noah's Ark took off from. What are the odds of that? And Wayne May doesn't know anything about that. Not to my knowledge, he's never talked about it or tied it into his theory. The Mormons would end up buying. Did I ever tell you that? Did I ever tell you about John Klug?
No, it doesn't ring a bell.
Look up him real quick. John Klug, please.
How do you spell his last name?
Kluge.
A German American entrepreneur.
Yep.
Go to
his Wikipedia. Okay, so John Klug was at one time the richest man in America, the wealthiest man. He was on Forbes' richest, for multiple years in a row. Now, in the 90s was the peak of his wealth. Late 80s, early 90s, I believe. But in Callaway's day, so Callaway started talking about the Garden of Eden in the 50s, late 50s. He put out his book, 1966. And then he kept developing, kept working on his theories, but he never really added or got much more information out there. His book in the beginning was very small, and not many were printed at all. Very hard to come by. But he ran almost like a tourist attraction at the Garden of Eden, E. Callaway. And he put signs up. He made claims in newspapers. He challenged people, made all these challenges to all these, doubters, deniers, naysayers, saying, if you can, disprove these theories, I'll pack up and close shop, and I'll sell the land. John Klug heard about Callaway's claims. John Klug was very religious. Somewhere in there it'll say what church he belonged to, but he took it very seriously. Now, John Klug, when he heard about Callaway's theories, he challenged Callaway and said, John Klug, who had become the richest man in America, he was already wealthy back then, he hired a team of experts a team of experts. I imagine they were archaeologists, historians, biblical scholars, and he hired them to disprove Callaway. Now, this isn't in the book. Nobody knows about this. I had to dig deep to find this out. John Klug challenged him, hired a team of experts to disprove him, and they go off. And John Klug said, "You guys, as much time as you need, as much money as you need, whatever, to shut this guy up," because John Klug was kind of interpreting this as heretical. He was saying, "Who is this guy to say, oh, the Bible's wrong?" That's where a lot of people misinterpret this theory. They say, "Okay, if you're saying the Garden of Eden's in Florida, you're saying the Bible's wrong." Not really. We have to hear Callaway's reasoning out first to understand. He doesn't say that, because the only thing that can confuse that is the name of the rivers. Euphrates, Tigris, or the Hiddekel, I think, is the Tigris, and the Pison and the Gihon. Only two of those are over in the Middle East today, for certain. But when did they get those names? As we all know, when people get off a boat, they take the names that they came with them. So places that were very close together in England are now spread out very far. The same names are spread out very far in America, Australia, names like Elizabeth, Virginia, you name it, right? So, or, even just like, what are some more conventional British names that are like Edinburgh, British names in America, or British name, Muhammad at the top. But
Bro, my sister just moved to the UK a couple months ago.
you should rename yourself to Juan Klug.
What did this Klug guy, but what was his idea? That, strict hardcore Bible, what it says, it's where it's at, even though it's not, it doesn't 100% say exactly where it was, right? It doesn't say it was an apple tree. There's a lot of things that are open for interpretation.
Right. People interpret the names of the rivers to be concrete evidence that, okay, the Garden of Eden's in Iraq, it's never moved, it's always been there, but that wasn't always the case. Those names were not tied down to those regions. I'm not going to say recently, but certainly not in distant biblical times. So after the Crusades, for example, everyone had pretty much made their mind up and was pretty much convinced, yeah, there's no Garden of Eden in the Middle East. Okay. Now, after like almost 1,000 years, people have forgotten about that, and we've started romanticizing and politicizing the Middle East again. And there's a big agenda to get people to get Americans and Westerners to invest, theologically in the Middle East, like not just Jerusalem, but now we've pushed it over into Iraq too. I mean, one of the big significances of the Iraq war was you had all these hillbillies from America who were Christian, literally like trampling over what they've been told is the Garden of Eden, the Euphrates River, the this and that, like that whole region. So if that were not the real Garden of Eden, how many American soldiers would have really went over there to fight in Iraq if that place had no biblical significance whatsoever? So the Garden of Eden played at least some role in the messianic kind of element, or like the
Well, you think it made them want to go
eschatology, like the eschatology, or the a little bit, yeah. Some people, if you ever watch like an Iraq war or Gulf War documentary, you'll see soldiers being like, "Yeah, man, this is Abraham crossed these rivers. Now we in Humvees crossing them." And then they're like, "Sergeant, should we really be dropping bombs on the Garden of Eden?" And like,
But it's sort
you'll
of,
see jokes like that.
check this guy out, right? Look at this guy. During World War II, Klug served at the secret PO Box 1142 interrogation. This dude was a vet, bro. This dude was a vet.
So
And
yeah,
it feels kind of targeted in a way, almost like a psyop to make people believe it's over there, right? How you're saying, because this is new to me, where they felt proud of going over there of Abraham Crossy, and here we are in a Humvee. Like that's brainwashing at its best to want to make them right and want to make people fight. Because how you said, in my opinion, I thought if it's the Garden of Eden, let's not go over there and do any of that. But it's the other way around. It's like, oh, it is. So let's go over there even more and go
yeah,
harder because, and one of the, I'm not gonna bring this up. Well, so one of the right, you have the Tengu, right? And one of the things I tried to, my dad is real red leaning, right? Very, very
hell
red.
yeah,
And I started telling him about the Tengu, right? And the corruption and everything else that's associated with it. Even though I'm not antiseptic by any means, I think I've met some Tengu are the nicest Tengu I've ever met in my life. Right? They would give me the shirt off their backs if they could.
yep,
But when I started telling him a little bit about, I'm like, hey, you do know there's like a group of people that don't like them. He's like, what do you mean that they don't like them? But they're the chosen people, right? And I'm like, yeah, but do you wonder why maybe they were kicked out so many times? Like once you start getting kicked out over and over and over again, you can't just say, oh, it's persecution. They're trying to take us down because we're the chosen people. It's like, no, you might be a problem, right? So when I tried to nail that down to him, he was like, no, but you can't, that's heresy. You can't. So there's like these two levels of brainwashing, right? Where it's like, where do you stand? And he couldn't believe that part. But here I am, because again, I'm part of the conspiracy crowd that we're in this sort of
listen,
thing.
Juan, I think this pot's making you a little aggressive.
No,
Okay.
I'm sober,
Okay.
dude. I haven't smoked pot in like 2 years.
That was Eyes Wide Shut quote. Where it's
Mm.
like, listen, you
Guess what, dude? We're gonna do something. We're overdue for two things. We're overdue for a meetup. All right, let's pick a full moon to have a meetup, and we're overdue for an in-person podcast.
oh
And
hell
when I
yeah.
go down, bro, we're gonna blaze up. All right, dude. We're gonna smoke a bowl.
Let's just relax, Juan. This pod is making you aggressive.
Aggressive,
Okay.
bro. It's making you antiseptic, dude.
I'm
Calm
gonna
down.
I'm gonna you're the Theo Vaughn. I'm the Joe Rogan to your Theo Vaughn.
Yeah. You're crazy, dude. Gotta get off those meds. I wish I was taking some, but the yeah. Well, this is interesting that this guy went out of his way to disprove Callaway on something not not trivial, but something that a lot of people don't even think twice about, right? But here, this guy is going out of his way, almost sort of coordinated by the system. It's a conspiracy, right?
Well, hang on, Juan. Okay, because the story turns out in a pretty interesting way. Now, Callaway made the claims. I almost called him Juan Klug. Tried to disprove him, and he hired the team of experts to study. And what they found, okay, they took a couple months at least, maybe more than that. But he told them, as much time as you need, as much money as you need, I'm going to fund it. So it was almost like a Indiana Jones type thing. And he says, well, the team comes back to him after months of research. Okay. Uh, they like took their hat off and they're like, Mr. Klug, we regret to inform you that not only were we unable to disprove Callaway's evidence, he has more evidence, more convincing evidence in Florida than all the Middle East combined.
Yikes.
Not for biblical history or not Hebrew history. Okay. We know that's in the Middle East. We're not saying that's wrong. But Garden of Eden history, things like the gopherwood, things like all the biblical plant species being found in one spot, all the animals, You can branch off and talk about Atlantis and Appalach like we did last time, like all these rumors of this paradise to the west kind of line up. But from the biblical perspective, they said, Mr. Klug's team said, Mr. Klug, we know you just dumped all this money into this. We really looked, we really tried, and we cannot definitively disprove his claims. He actually has more evidence in this one little spot in Florida than they do in all of Iraq and Iran. So, John Klug, what do you think he did after that? He bought the Garden of Eden. He purchased
No.
it. He bought as much of it as he could and held on to it for about 10 years with Callaway and him, helping each other. Callaway was kind of almost like a tour guide or an educator who worked there, and Klug took it over. Nobody knows about this, very little information. And maybe you can go through, like, Juan, I'd love if you could help me out with finding like land transfers, history or records if you can. But I've found this through newspaper articles, and we know that it happened, but I'd be happy to get more specifics. John Klug purchased as much of the Garden of Eden as he could. Callaway helped him, for about another 10 years. Callaway died in 1989, around there. And now we're at like 1976, almost 86, closer to 86 now. So Callaway was ready to retire. He was already super old in like the 60s and 70s. So
So they
John Klug, just real quick, sold it to who? Who do you think John Klug sold it to? Who do you think bought the Garden of Eden after him?
I don't know. So Bill Gates. Who?
The Mormon Church, the
Oh,
LDS, Latter Day Saints.
which they own a lot of land in Florida.
Yep. To this day, they're
A
the
lot.
largest landowner in Florida, private landowner in Florida.
A lot of land.
Yep. They have some big ranches and farms in
Ranches, yeah.
Florida.
But why would he do that if it kind of went against his religion? Yeah, right. He started out kind of combative, try to prove him wrong.
Yeah.
They became best buddies. They became friends. That's how Callaway was able to kind of chill out. Was he a
Well,
Mason too?
I don't know. I don't think he was a Mason, John Klug. I think he was just honestly convinced. He paid this team to disprove Callaway. They told him what they found. I don't think any of them signed on to Callaway's theory, but they said, we can't disprove it. There's nothing he's saying that's that ridiculous. Noah came from somewhere. And eventually, Callaway must have convinced John Klug, the richest man in America, eventually, to purchase the Garden of Eden in Florida. He held on to it for like 10 years. The Mormons had it for like 10 years, maybe. And then it went to the state. And it's like, Torreya State Park is a state park. The Garden of
Mhm.
Eden Trail, it's operated by this like land conservation company. But it's protected land. It's like owned by the state or stewarded by some private company for the state, something like that.
They own over 679,000 acres, bro, which is a lot of acreage and about roughly 2% of Florida's total land mass. So it's interesting, right? Because but another part of me, it's like, okay, this is the Garden of Eden, blah blah blah. I was in Florida, but also, why is there so much destruction? Like, I know we were gonna do that one documentary about the phosphate mining and all this pollution too that's in Florida. Where are they able to do that because it's this great place, right? That has so much to offer, or are they doing it just because, like, Again, I mean, if you think about it, the phosphate industry, Florida provides how much phosphate?
Yeah, Florida fertilizes much of the Western Hemisphere.
No, it's to the world though, bro.
Yeah.
So how much of it does Florida provide though? Uh, Let me look it up. So Florida provides
About a quarter.
25% of the world's phosphate demand and roughly 75% of the phosphorus used by US farmers.
Yeah.
So 25% of the world's
Yeah.
demand and 75% of the US, which is a crazy amount if you think about it. And how you said just how the gopher tortoise protects all these species and all these things, right? Here is Florida giving back, but at what cost?
Yeah.
Because the byproduct of this phosphorus is quite literally radioactive. And there's been a ton of these lakes that have opened up with sinkholes that go directly into aquifers and they just destroy apps. That's why you get red tides and all these other things that just
Yeah.
completely destroy it.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
like, are these corporations buying it up because they know, like, hey, this is the black
these-
gold, bro. This is the prima materia.
I think they are. I think you're right. But, Juan, these corporations with their corporation-y corporations and their corporations, all they do is corporate and corporations. They're corporation-y corporate. Well, Juan, in Florida, what we like to say is developers, okay? We don't
All
like
right.
the developers coming in and tearing up Florida, okay? Keep Florida green. Go
I
develop
can't help it.
go develop the parking lots that are already here, or
I can't help it.
go develop the desert.
I'll tell you
Go
one of
to
my projects, bro. I'll tell you one of
Now,
my
Juan,
projects.
you're a developer, aren't you?
Not to the scale you think. I'm more of I'm a
Yeah.
nah, I'm peanuts compared to some of these guys.
I know, I'm just teasing.
But listen, I'm gonna tell you one of my projects. One of my projects that I'm developing right now was actually a closed landfill, a closed construction debris landfill that's been closed for over 30 years that the county and the state have given me problems of for the last 3 years because
Mm.
our government, I'm trying to clean up a closed landfill and I am, and we're doing it. And I've gotten so much pushback, bro. Do you understand what that is? I told I spoke to the commissioner, okay? And she knows I don't want to be mean. She was a nice lady, but she was an idiot, okay? I spent about 30 minutes explaining to her what we were trying to do. And after the 30, and I understand it's a lot to take in. After the 30 minutes, he asked me a question at the end or told me something at the end that I understood she didn't hear absolutely anything I said to her. And I'm like, what are we doing here? So our own government works against us, right? And I'm trying to clean up trash. I told the county, I'm like, I can show you the email. I'm trying to clean up garbage from this
Said
old landfill.
"Listen, I'm Puerto Rican, okay? I'm an expert
I
when it
know
comes
about
to
garbage
garbage and
and
trash."
islands, all right,
Okay.
bro? We're experts. So, anyways, point being that a lot of a lot of it is to blame the commissioners and these politicians that are in power because you see it over and over again. And Orange County is one of those counties that where I'm at, Central Florida, that it's pay to play, and you got to pay to play, and they don't like it when you go against the grain and not pay them to play, and that's where you get a lot of problems. But yeah, anyways, I am a developer, but not like that. I try and help. You know what I'm saying? I could have, but sometimes you just see a juicy lot with a bunch of trees and you just want to just mow it down and just build a house on it.
Oh, yeah?
I gotta feed my family too, bro.
Houses aren't the worst thing ever, as long as we give them, like, an acre of space between them or something.
Oh yeah, no, we're not doing like planned development. We're doing development, not planned development, which is different.
Dude, these suburb fucking gated communities,
Edward Scissorhands.
semi-gated communities, dude, these things go up with, like, 100 houses, 200, 500. Fucking
Yeah.
insane, dude. They tear up the Everglades. They tear up gopher tortoises, and also, you know, we talk about this stuff. It's not the number one motivation. I'm not going to be over here like, yeah, we got to save the owls, guys. Like, okay. I'm no leftist eco terrorist loser, but
You're a hippie.
I am a hippie, okay? We can't let Florida get destroyed by reckless, greedy developers. I know it's such a cliche just to like fling our problems at like some rich person, but it's true. Uh the developers are destroying Florida. They're, if I were governor of Florida tomorrow, I'd say no more development. If there's green, you don't touch it. If you see a parking lot and you want to flip that, make into something cool, whatever. No more green, no more wet or green development, and go develop the desert. That's what we need t-shirts saying. So,
It's never gonna happen, bro. And it's interesting that we talk about Florida being overdeveloped. Yes, in some areas it may seem like it, but there are a lot of areas that are undeveloped, and it's just like land and land and land for a long time. You go, damn, there's nothing out here,
yeah,
and
you
there's a
just
lot of
start just
places.
start licking your lips, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I start rubbing my hands together. I'm like, let's go. But yeah, no, there still are a lot of places that are a lot of land still untouched, right for the
Mhm.
picking, and we're gonna be here along the way to do it.
Well, here, what I was gonna say was, not to be too much of a, uh, you know, conservationist or whatever. I believe in all that. These theories are gonna get more attention to the Torreya taxifolia, the Florida gopherwood, which is an endangered tree species, and the gopher tortoise. The talking about Noah's Ark being built out of gopherwood, this endangered species, and the gopher tortoise, how those all tie in together. That's going to be a great route to help protect these two species, Torreya taxifolia, gopher tortoise. And those two are getting hit the hardest. Torreya, not so much by development, but more just lack of awareness, lack of care. No one really knows or cares. But gopher tortoises are getting paved over all the time, every year in Florida.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you know how big do these trees get? Do they get big to
Like
go for?
50 feet, maybe at most. They're not like that big.
Oh, that sounds pretty big.
Yeah, I think the tallest one ever was like 50 feet, but they used to be bigger during the Ice Age.
Yeah. So where were we at? So that they become best buds. He kind of funds the operation, then he turns around, flips it, sells it to the Mormon church, and then the Mormon church, well, I can imagine donates it to the state, and the state takes it over.
Yeah, there was maybe one or two private owners in there, somewhere in between that we skipped over, but yeah, more or less.
Okay. And let's where do we go from here? Let me look at
So
my
the tree of life, just to reiterate on this, we talked about the tree of knowledge of good and evil in the more metaphorical or allegorical sense, symbolic. Just for everyone out there, we are going to talk about all the literal candidates for the tree of knowledge and the tree of life. We're going to talk about what trees they could or could not be. So don't think that we're done with that portion. Okay, we're going to get very literal and in depth here in a sec. But the tree of life, if you want to just real quick, what Callaway was saying, he points to the tree of life being the laws of God, um, the forces of creation, all that is good, like all that is kind of growing and spreading outward and upward, guided by the principles of God, the laws of God. He almost kind of makes like some acronyms, or like there's 4 parts to um let me see what he says here. God is law. Law does not have any headquarters. It is infinite, universal, everywhere, omnipresent. I am a God at hand, and not a God afar off. He points to the tree of life as belief in a supreme being, and just placing your complete faith in God. He kind of leaves it a little vague, but he believes the tree of life was more or less as symbolic as he said the tree of knowledge of good and evil was. So, but all right. So
Which
that's
makes
what he
sense.
that's
It's
what
up
he
for
said.
interpretation.
He definitely didn't rest the whole theory on what the tree of life or tree of knowledge were, but he touched on it a little bit. I agree there, he could have said some more, could have fleshed it out a little bit, but you know,
Eh,
where do we go from here, Juan?
Do you think that this is a mockery, right? Because we talk about it's interesting that Disney and his brother, the Disney Bros, came here to Florida, and they licked their hands too, right? Or licked their hands, licked their lips and rubbed their hands together, or probably did both. Who cares? They licked their hands too, and they saw this, you know, how many acres of land, and they just completely demolished it, and they put a tree of life in here. And this is one of these trees that you've talked about before that looks like an upside down. Is this the upside down tree that we've talked about before? Where it looks like the
Yes.
roots are at the
Yep.
top.
Yep. That's a baobab tree.
Baobab. Wasn't there a baobab in where did we go that there was one? We
There's
went
one in
somewhere.
there's Hollywood, Florida, a circle, and then there is a couple in Miami.
The Flagler
What?
house or no?
Whoa, that's a kapok tree. So
Cape.
let's go through all the candidates. We're on the baobab right now, so we'll start off with that one. You know, just I know we have many like kind of highbrow or very heady intellectual viewers who've certainly, worked around the symbolism, allegory. So bear with us. It's not foolish to interpret the Bible literally. Okay, definitely not. I always say if you're going to engage in any or entertain any of these higher interpretations like the allegory or symbolism, allegory, transcendental truth, you've got to swallow the literal. You can't build a functioning allegory out of a false statement, or obviously false or something that's not rooted in truth. So you've got to be able to swallow the Bible literally. Okay. And I say swallow because people are reluctant. They think, oh, I know more than that. I know better than that. I've researched that this book was actually added this, and they took this book out, and this verse was added later. People get so intellectual and they get so into it, they start to think they're a scholar of the Bible. They start to use academia as their new religion, and the peer reviews become their councils of truth, and their science educators become their new arbiters of truth, and it's a whole new religion. People lose faith. They get they lose their firm footing. Just real quick, to interpret these things literally shows humility. It shows that we're okay not understanding every single part of it. Okay. You know, the greatest thing in the world is an ordinary man and his ordinary wife and their ordinary children, right? Just living God's plan, not trying to take a peek behind the curtain all the time and all that. But with all that said, there's the preface, there's the disclaimer. Uh we're going to talk about the symbolism, the allegory too, but we'll start off with the literal. So I don't want to see too many people shaming us saying, "Oh, you really think it's a tree? You really think it's a fruit? You really think that?
I mean,
Whatever.
we mentioned at the beginning,
Shut up.
there's the metaphysical and there's the
Yeah.
physical. Like,
But
we understand that.
yeah, but my consciousness is kind of always no, don't yeah, don't entertain him. Yeah. Sorry, there's someone at the door asking for stuff. But
So
it's all
yeah,
right.
no, I mean, we talked about that at the beginning. It's not, you know, there's multiple ways of interpreting things, and I don't think it's I don't think it's bad to talk about every different aspect of it.
Well, I deal with a lot of condescending, smug know-it-alls. Maybe I'm one of them, but uh yeah. So, all right. What are some of the candidates for the real tree of life? Have you ever thought about it? Fig tree's not a bad place to start, but baobab, let's start with the baobab. So, the expression or the title tree of life is not exclusive to the Bible. Tree of life is kind of a concept all around the world. Again, there's more mystical interpretations, more like geographic interpretations, like, oh, the center tree at the center of the North Pole, in the middle of the world, things like that. But the tree of life in the Bible, let's see. Well, in Africa, since we're on the baobab tree, in Africa, Madagascar, and parts of India, um, they look at the baobab tree as the tree of life. Now, the Bible doesn't lay out these criteria, but there is kind of like a loose criteria for what a tree of life is. It provides food, shelter. So, food, shelter, clothing, and water. The tree of life pretty much provides all of man's needs, and not every tree fits into that category. So, you know, not all, a lot of trees have fruit. A lot of them can be kind of fashioned into crafts, crafted into tools and clothing, but not many trees provide shelter in the true sense, like natural sense, meaning you can go inside a baobab tree a lot of times, and they're really big. They're
Got that
used.
that tree hussy, bro. Better knock it off.
I'm trying to
Oh
I'm
man.
trying to get up in there.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um,
but people use them as
bro.
houses, uh, jails, bars, and so they provide actual shelter. And they can be, they have fibers, they have bark, all the different pieces can be fashioned into clothing. And this is not something you find it's not native to Iraq, it's not native to Florida, but it's a good candidate. Well, here, how about this? Let's start off with the ones that are native to Florida. Okay. Because yeah, let's take that direction. That'll be better. So,
In the Torreya State Park, right? You want to look them up there?
well, you were searching about the fig tree. That's a good place to start. So the first plant named by name in the Bible is the fig tree. So fig leaves, at least in the English Bible.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned there's no apples in the Garden of Eden, or they're not mentioned by name. It just says fruit. And now, apple, we talked about before. We were talking about Appalach in the Welsh otherworld, America being Avalon. We talked about how apples, Appalachicola, seems to have the word apple in it too.
Oh.
Now, apple is kind of a uh, it was a generic term. It could apply to all different types of fruit. Until recently, apples, I'm saying recently, but I don't know, 300 years, 200 years, 150 years. Within that time period, the word apple came to mean the apple from Kazakhstan, the common apple we know
Mm-hmm.
today. That's not always what apple meant, so people shouldn't get hung up on the word apple too much. I don't believe the tree of life or the tree of knowledge was an apple tree, but we do have Apalachicola in Florida, so could be a connection there. Now, the fig tree, figs are native to Florida, so that's one clue, one evidence right there. Figs are native to Florida, multiple types. There are strangler trees that are native to Florida, which are in the fig family too, and then of course the banyans and ficus religiosa, like the Buddha's ficus tree, the banyan trees from Asia have been brought over to America, brought over to Florida since like the 90s, maybe 1890s, early 1900s, 1920s. There was definitely a lot of banyan trees in Florida by then. But figs. So figs are all over Florida. So if we're going down our Bible checklist, figs are in Florida. Check. Fig leaves. Adam and Eve were covered with fig leaves, according to the English Bible. But I don't think people really say that the garden or the tree of knowledge of good and evil was a fig. I don't hear that too much. But some popular candidates for what the tree of knowledge of good and evil were. I know we're on the tree of life right now, but people like to say from like more of a biblical point of view or an archaeological point of view in the Middle East, they'll say citrus sometimes. Again, citrus is not really native to the Middle East either, but citrus plays a important role in Hebrew ceremony and Hebrew holidays, Jewish holidays, but so does the palm tree. I know we're going to talk about the palm tree.
The strangler fig tree.
Yeah.
Is it like a parasite that crawls on other?
Well, it gets dropped usually from birds. Sometimes, like a raccoon or something, will drop the seeds up at the top of another tree. And then instead of growing upward, they grow downward. So that's some of the religious symbolism there is
Whoa, dude.
they grow
Crazy.
down, from heaven down to earth, they seem to grow downward, and they strangle the trees that they start out on over time, like a
It's not really.
python, and take them over. And they're strong, so once they take over a tree, once they're latched on, it's kind of hard to get rid of them. But
Whoa, dude. So we have
now the Buddha was, is said to have reached enlightenment or attained enlightenment underneath a banyan or fig or ficus tree. So
got the paradise tree that's also native to Florida.
okay.
You ever heard of that?
No, not
It
really.
is a flowering tree native to Florida, South America, and the Caribbean. The paradise tree, the century bark, and bitterwood.
One sec. I'll be right back. Juan.
So it produces fruit. So it's native to South Florida. And it produces edible fruit. So there are, let's see what does the fruit look like? Fruit. Paradise tree, right? So they look like grapes. What is this? They almost look like little dates, kind of. Which we'll get into the palm tree here soon. So we have the strangler fig, which we just talked about, one of Florida's most fascinating native trees. Begins life in another tree and eventually becomes a giant independent organism. Ancient fig trees are deeply connected to biblical imagery. Again, Adam and Eve use fig leaves. Figs appear throughout the scripture. And we have the gumbo limbo. What is that? This is in Florida. A fast growing, highly wind resistant native tree found in South Florida
Oh
and
yeah.
the Keys.
So who told you that? Where'd you come up with gumbo limbo? Or
No, I looked up native Florida
yeah,
species of trees that are good candidates for the Garden of Eden.
damn. And you searched AI with that,
Yeah.
bro. Bro, you're giving them all my secrets, dude. What the fuck?
You gotta go a little deeper than Wikipedia, dude. You know, you gotta be deeper. We gotta go deeper. So we're trying to
Oh
go
yeah.
deeper, bro.
Let that AI go as deep as it wants to
Yeah,
go on.
yeah. Yeah. Get over it.
So
The
no,
gumbo limbo.
that's a good candidate though. That's a good one. So people, frankincense. You know frankincense.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's frankincense. It's either frankincense or acacia. Gumbo limbo is one of the closest relatives to um, frankincense, I believe. Search gumbo limbo related to frankincense.
Is it like that? Sense?
Yeah.
Sense? No.
No, it's
No.
INC. That's okay.
Uh
Just go to all. It'll explain it. Yeah, same family as
Whoa.
frankincense. Closely related, same family. They are both prized for their incense, the resins. Okay. So gumbo
Mm.
limbo, I don't know if it's endangered, but it's kind of well known, kind of like romanticized tree, especially down here. We have gumbo limbo, this like nature uh, you know, education, wildlife education facility over in Boca Raton. And yeah, it's named for the gumbo limbo tree. And now gumbo limbo is very close to frankincense. So it can be used for a similar thing. And frankincense played a significant role in, of course, the Old Testament. The Israelite priests would use frankincense and myrrh pretty much for all their activities. It had to be burning, especially in the tabernacle around the Ark of the Covenant and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Frankincense, myrrh, cinnamon, cannabis, too, I believe.
Hey.
But and then when Jesus comes around, they give him frankincense and myrrh. So we've got it here, right? Close enough, right? Uh, a distant, not distant, close relative. Good enough for me. Tamarind, yeah, we don't need to worry about tamarind. That's not. No, no, no. Here, AI is not going to give you good info on this. Okay, I'm AI's daddy. Okay,
Yeah.
I have a greater source than AI. It's called Yahweh. Okay, AI backwards.
The
AI
OG cloud.
AI is Yahweh backwards, by the way. Okay. So,
Let's talk about the what is it called? The
well,
pond apple.
Gumbo Limbo's pretty good. Nah, that's not really a good one. Yeah, we have apples.
Do they
It's
taste any good?
I don't think I've tasted one of these. But when we get to the tree of a knowledge of good and evil, the forbidden fruit,
Hey.
we've got an apple that we're going to talk about. That's a really convincing candidate.
It's one of the most Floridian pictures I've ever seen. A gator eating an apple.
Coconut. Oh, it's
No,
an apple.
that's a pond apple. Yeah.
Oh shit, my bad.
Yeah, bro. Come on, dude. I wonder
But
if it
yeah,
tastes good or not.
yeah, they taste pretty good from what I've heard.
Oh
But
my
we're going to
god.
talk about another one that's very similar that people really get
Right here. Reminiscent
poisoned
of,
by.
of ripe honeydew lemon. Ooh, I love lemon.
Okay.
Can be made into jam, popular ingredient of fruit drinks. Maldives in the past seeds are okay. Okay. Look at this. The seeds were crushed and cooked in coconut oil and applied to hair to get rid of lice.
Well, I don't think that's the tree of life, but let's put out some other candidates, okay?
All right.
Um
Here we go. A live oak.
We do have oak trees. Now, I don't think oak is a convincing candidate for the tree
Yeah,
of life.
there's no fruit, but some dude, I drive past some crazy
Yeah.
oak trees that look gnarly.
Search the century oak. Florida.
Century oak,
Yeah.
Florida.
Yeah.
Is this a place?
Oh, maybe it's
Tree?
in Georgia, actually. No, it's in Tallahassee.
Yeah,
It's
Tallahassee. This one?
Yeah, that one's pretty big. Then there is the
Whoa. You've
what's
been
the
here,
other
haven't
one?
you?
Yeah, I've been there. There's
Damn, look at the
another
size of
one.
that thing, bro.
There's a bigger one. There's a couple bigger ones. So the Spooner oak. Okay, this is like the tree of life. Search the Spooner oak.
The spooner.
Bruh.
Oh, damn, look how small he is.
Yeah. Look at my video. I have a video too if you want to look at it. I think I get the perspective better.
Yeah, I know you're what are you like 5'2", bro?
Funny. I think that's all right, Juan. You just missed a foot.
Let's see here. You're in my search history, bro.
Old World, Florida, Spooner oak. Search that. Yeah, that
Yeah,
one.
look how tiny you are, bro.
Yep.
You're at least 5'3".
Yep. Juan Ponce de Leon sized. Okay, now watch this.
You guys hear my audio or no?
And we don't need to listen. It's okay.
Just want to see how tiny you are.
Whatever gets you off, Juan. Whatever. Look how big. You'll see in a second.
Damn.
This is just over the Florida state line. It is right smack dab in the middle of the Garden of Eden area. You could not be more perfectly like here's the four rivers in the Garden of Eden. You know, Alabama's over here.
Bro, hold on. I gotta play the audio on this, bro. I gotta play the audio on this. I
Play it.
have to. Cause you sound like such a bitch, dude.
Gotta play it.
Bro,
Gotta play.
check this out. Check this out. Hi, I'm Narco Longo. Watch.
This is Dr. Narco Longo talking to you from the Garden of Eden, Iron City, Georgia. Whatever. It's a lapel mic, bro. Just north of Lake Seminole. It's got no low end in
And
it.
here we're standing in
Your
front of
cans are too tight, brother. You're
the
squeezing your
largest
balls.
oak tree.
There's no
in the
low
world.
end in the microphone. Okay.
We're down July the 15th, 2015.
Who's this guy?
This old tree, we measured it the other day. The Martin McClellan
That's an
up
I.
north
That's a.
with the Georgia forest we came, and me personally, I believe from my research and from what I know with reading about
This is
the
some
others,
local guy.
that this is going to be the biggest in the world.
The largest oak tree in the world. Now,
Whoa.
there's many oak trees that would like to be the largest in the world. But when we determine this, we're talking about single trunk or single stem. And that's what makes this tree unique,
Yeah.
is it's a single tree. Whereas
I got a single
oak
trunk
trees,
for you, bro.
especially live oaks, like this one, tend to grow in clumps and clusters. And those can get pretty large.
What is the provenance of a multi-trunk tree? Are they multiple acorns to make that?
Yep.
Most likely. And
How old do they say it is, bro?
Because they branch low.
At least 500, probably like 2,000.
Okay, another question though. This is by far the biggest single trunk.
That I know of.
Now, it's what makes this one especially unique is some of the largest oak trees in the world, regardless of how many stems, trunks, stalks they have, still are only barely larger than this tree here.
How many trunks does the Waycross tree have?
3.
The three.
Village Sentinel, that's another good one. The Waycross Oak. You're not gonna eat me if I hate a little. You're not. Sorry, fuck, I'm
It's
retarded.
gonna be 511.
I said you're not gonna hate me if I eat a little food, do you?
Eat a little snacky snack. You getting the
I think I-
munchies, bro?
Yo, some good weed, dude.
Girth. the best method is the
Football
girth.
is not taking in the big trees.
It's not.
And as David and I were
No.
saying, a 500-pound hog is still bigger than a 400-pound
Oh, yeah.
hog.
Let me tell you, just because a tree is a champion doesn't mean it's the tallest. It doesn't mean it's the oldest. Doesn't mean it's the fattest. Doesn't mean it's the widest. It just means by this formula that was set up in 1938, it has the most points. All that means, that's it. It has the most points. It means nothing else.
Now, the age for this tree, they haven't given for certain, but I've heard ranges from 200, 300, 600.
I joined the Navy at 18 years old.
Y'all done it. Y'all done
And
it. Y'all done
the
it.
tree was about the same size then.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll soon be 93 now.
You'll be
Whoa.
93. Wow. And it doesn't seem like it's changed in size
Yeah, I
in
just got
93
it grown
years.
in it.
How many
Wow.
plow lines?
I'm going to have to come out and say this is much, much older than 600.
Yeah,
Because I know
trust me, bro.
trees in South Florida and Miami who are 500 to 600, they're not even a quarter of this size.
So this oak tree is 17 foot in circumference. I was told that the Smithsonian did a core sample in the 70s, and they said it was somewhere around 500 to 600 years old. Before my time, obviously.
And those were dated by the Smithsonian themselves.
Which
So
we know
with
we
this
can trust
tree,
them,
we
right?
really have something special here.
All right, I'm Eli Dickerson here. I'm a volunteer with American Forest, and American Forest is the
Eli Dickerson
Eli?
here,
What's
measuring the girth of this tree here. It's one of the girthiest I've ever done seen.
We're
All right,
here
so-
we're here with American Girth Hunters. My name's Eli.
Oh,
Eli, Girtherson.
Eli Girth Dickerson. All right,
we
that's enough.
love you, Eli. Just kidding.
That's enough. Let's get serious. We're talking about the Garden of Eden here in the. All right. Okay. Interesting video. Yeah, that thing is Where is that in Georgia?
Just over the Florida state line in the very, very southeast corner near Iron City, Georgia.
So in the area, the FAG border.
Yep. The
Around that
exact,
area.
literally, Garden of Eden area. Callaway says there's 4 rivers there: Chattahoochee, the Fish Pond Creek, the Spring Creek, and the Flint River. That tree is smack dab in the middle of those 4 rivers.
So one of the other trees, I don't know if this is a candidate or not, the one that we did over at the Flagler house. What kind of tree? That was a baobab tree, right? Is that a candidate or is that not from here, right? That was a transplanted tree.
It's not a terrible candidate, but I don't think it's super convincing. So kapok trees come from the Caribbean. They're mostly, I think, in Mexico, like the Yucatan, Puerto Rico. They are one of the principal trees of the Maya and the Aztec. So they must be spread over a fair amount of Mexico. Flagler brought this one to Florida, but there could have been some in Florida. It's not outside the realm of possibility that one was growing on its own before Columbus came here.
Mhm.
The Tainos, the Arawak were taking, canoes back and forth from the Bahamas, Puerto Rico, Florida. And, you can go from Bimini to Florida in a kayak in 15 hours. Do you know that?
Good luck. Yeah, I'm sure you can. It can be done. But how are you gonna carry your massive balls on that kayak, bro? Because that would that'd be a scary ride. It's scary on a regular boat or a jet ski.
Dude, fucking
Imagine
girls and paddleboards do it, dude. Be fine.
15 hours, bro. 15 hours. Look at Longo, bro. Everywhere he goes. Guess who's taking this video? Do I come out in here? Did I do a guess who the cameraman is in this video?
No, you were shivering behind the camera.
Is what well, I think isn't Epstein's house by here?
Yeah, we stopped there for drinks after this, remember?
Yeah, no.
While
I
we were
don't
over
even
there.
come out in this video. That's crazy. But yes, I am the cameraman. This camera work here. Anyways, what are other the Florida state tree, the cabbage palm?
Yeah, it's not a bad option.
And then we can get into
the
palm tree.
Indians. The Indians used to make
Whoa.
clothes, shelter, food out of the palmetto, the cabbage palm or the saw palmetto, sable palm.
So the palm tree, right? One of the interesting things is that in some interpretations, you know, we've all seen this picture here. Let me find it. Where did I put it?
Yeah, man, let's dive deep on the palm tree.
Let me find the damn. I just had a freaking picture of it. Hold up. Anyways, here, let me find on the presentation. If I can remember where was that. Okay. So we've all seen different interpretations of, right? This is as far back, you know, thousands of years. And one of the interesting things is that they show the tree of knowledge of good and evil as a palm tree, and that the fruit was actually a date fruit. And the date palm is one of the oldest palm trees, you know, and essentially they're pretty much immortal. And I'm trying to find the picture where they have the little pouches. Let me find it here. We've all seen the little pouch. Everyone asks, like, you know, what's in the bag, sort of thing. And they're picking the fruit from the date palm, right? So under the Code of Hammurabi, date growing, sharecropping, the sale and cutting of palms were subject to official regulations. So this goes back, you know, hundreds and thousands of years. I'm trying to find the damn picture, bro. Can't find it. Anyways, point being that the date palm is sometimes interpreted as, and I feel like it's a good candidate. What is in Florida, we have different places named Palm, right? Palm Beach Gardens, Palm City, Palm Coast. And there are, I believe when I looked this up, it was palm trees and heraldry. And there's about 175. Puerto Rico has a palm tree. The city of Miami has a palm tree. There's a bunch of different flags that have the palm in it. The Florida
9/11 backwards.
Do what?
Said 9/11 upside down or
Oh, yeah.
backwards.
Yeah.
119. Palm trees have been kicked out of 119 state insignias.
I'm trying to find the damn let me find it here. Mesopotamia tree of life. We've all seen it. And
Yeah.
oh, here it is. Here it is. I found it. So this particular picture, right?
Yeah.
Everyone always talks about, like, oh, what's in the bag? What's the what's this all about? The little pouch. What's in there? What do they have? And this is actually a depiction of a palm tree. And in other depictions, they show them putting the pine cone, which, if you think about it, what happened when they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil? They became what? They entered another state of consciousness. They learned that they were naked. They learned that they became ashamed. And the pine cone is another thing where it's been depicted as a sort of like the pineal gland. Well, if you look at a date fruit, it kind of looks like a little, right? It's kind of cone shape. You can interpret that as that. And a lot of the conspiracies that they always talk about, like, oh, what are these guys doing here? What are they picking here? It's a pine cone. Oh, it might be a date fruit, right? A little bunch of little dates that they're just putting in their bag. It could also be symbolic, right? That the date fruit could be consciousness, or the altering of it, et cetera, et cetera.
Let me translate this for you, Juan. Okay, this is clearly an ancient Mesopotamian depiction of some gay guys from Palm Beach with purses. Okay,
Isn't it Palm Beach Pete? Is that his name?
It's Palm Beach Pete and his
Illuminati
friends.
confirmed.
We got him, boys. We got him. Palm Beach Pete. Again, palm trees. The Illuma palm trees.
I saw Palm Beach Pete in my car last week.
Yeah, told us. All right, we should get him on the show next time I'm down there. Get him into the store. That'd be an interesting. So you look like one of the biggest PDF files of all time. How does that make you feel? That you're on this rip around Florida or on all these news stations that it was that he looks like him. I'd stay 100%, 100 feet away from that. So right in the Bible, the righteous shall flourish like the palm tree, Psalm 92:12. And then it was interesting because I found this picture of a Templar, and of course it had the palm trees in the back, because I think so. A little bit of a spoil. I don't want to spoil it. But I think it's got to do with ancient bloodlines, and it goes way back through time. And let me find something else here. So it's interesting. So the date palm, right, referred to as the Phoenix dactylifera, and it's got, right, you have the phoenix born from, right, rising from the ashes. And it's interesting because they have a history, one of the oldest cultivated tree crops with a history of over 5,000 years old. And check this out, right? You have the crown ranges from 6 to 10 meters or 20 to 33 feet, right? We got that 33 number in there. And they make a bunch of different things with it, right? You can, the date, it's super good for you. You can make syrup, alcohol, vinegar, the seeds, the wood, the leaves, and they're used for a whole bunch of different things. So it would make sense that how you were mentioning earlier about the trees providing life, providing shelter, et cetera, et cetera. The date palm is one of the perfect candidates that would provide you with fruit. And then you can also use that to make other things with it. It has medicinal uses, right? They use it as a cleanser. It can be used for sore throats, colds, fevers. So it even treats diarrhea and urinary ailments. But yeah, I mean, it could be 30. I just thought it was interesting. This is some Wikipedia stuff. But right, they can use the seeds for the seeds are burned to make charcoal, right? So it's got a whole bunch of different things that it can be used for. And
also, when they say honey in the Bible, a lot of times it's actually date syrup.
Dates are mentioned more than 50 times in the Bible, 20 times in the Quran, and obviously they hold great significance in Abrahamic religions. The date palm leaves are used for what? For Palm Sunday in Christian religion. And many Jewish scholars believe that the honey reference in Exodus chapter 3, the land of flowing with milk and honey, is actually well, you just said that, the date honey, and not honey from bees. So in the Torah, the palm trees are referenced as symbols of prosperity and triumph. Uh, Date palms are one of the 7 species of native Israelite plants revered in Judaism. In the Quran, Allah instructs Maryam to eat dates during labor pains when she gives birth to Jesus. So again, it's just over and over again. And then I get even, a lot of it was interesting because when I was making this presentation, I was actually in Georgia, and on my feed, one of the things that they found when they had unearthed the was it Tutankhamun? I think it was his name, the pharaoh where they opened up Tutankhamun. Kamun, they had found dates, right? They preserved breads, figs, dates, grapes, honey, wine, and plenty of meat. And I actually I was in Georgia at the time, right? FAG, the FAG border. And I ended up coming across this traveling Tutankhamun exhibit. And this is actually my son. These are pictures of me there, where these are all different. They're not real. They're like props, but they set up like this whole museum and they do like a guided tour and everything of all these things. And this was like 3 years ago now. And they had like an audio guided tour, but it all started with the research into the date, which they found some that were preserved with him. And I get into the Necronomicon and a whole bunch of other stuff, but I want to talk about the a second. Yeah, the palm tree. Let's talk about right, we mentioned the Masons earlier, and there's actually a Masonry sect of here's another Templar. The Knights Templar were said to have developed a brew or concoction of palm wine, aloe vera pulp, and hemp, an elixir they called the elixir of Jerusalem, and to which they attributed their health, strength, and longevity.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Knights Templar were said to have developed a brew, I put this twice, I guess. So the
Well,
Templars,
if you notice, palm tree is almost like an anagram of Templar. Like
yes,
not the same amount of letters, but the same
yeah,
letters being used.
yep, yep, exactly. And let me find it here. There was another thing that I came across, right? Talking about the Garden of Eden and everything else in certain iterations, the leftover clay that was used to make Adam, uh after the creation of Adam and his sister, the palm tree was created from the leftover clay. So the world which he calls the earth of reality was made from the sesame seed sized piece of clay that was left over after the creation of Adam and his sister, the palm tree. Right? This image of the palm tree is based on a well-known hadith where the prophet proclaims, "Honor your paternal aunt, the palm tree, for she was created from the remainder of clay of your father Adam." So the sister of Adam, and I believe this is Sufism, is connected to the palm tree. So again, this is why I believe it's connected to the Holy Grail and maybe a certain bloodline, right? This palm tree bloodline.
Oh, yeah.
Again, this is all speculation. Okay, this is all speculation. I'm going to be doing there's 124 slides here. Okay, so I'm going to be doing a whole thing on this. I'm just jumping around a little bit to find the some palm tree references. And so there's actually here we are, Freemasonic tracing boards as well that have palm trees. You can kind of interpret these pillars as palm trees as well. And one of the things that this is Philip K. Dick. Let me find the Freemasonic sect that has the one that I told you about, that they were like, be erect like a palm tree.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find that slide. It's called the let me find it here. Please bear with me. So this is a Freemasonic Bible, right? And it's got a palm tree in the back there. And I'm trying to find the order of the shell and the palm and the shell. There you go. So I link this to the Access Mundi. You have, and these are all Freemasonic illustrations, right? And you have the palm tree in the middle of it all. And there was this certain sect of Freemasonry called the palm and shell. And linguistics is concerned with the nature of language and communication. In this context, we desire to illustrate or communicate certain information related to the use of the palm as an emblem in Freemasonry. And I was taking this from a Freemasonic site. The palm tree, known as tamar in Hebrew language, is used to mean to be erect, a palm tree.
Ooh.
In Psalms 92:12, we find the righteous shall flourish like the palm tree tamar. He shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon. The palm tree, an emblem of less prominence in Freemasonry, could be viewed as having been hidden in plain sight, particularly as evidenced by this picture in our Blue Lodge textbook 30th edition. So you have this, again, shifting the obscuring the view of like it's always been there. You just have never noticed that it's there. What's one of the most famous pictures in California, bro? They were freaking out recently because the palm trees that line that boulevard were actually dying, right?
Yeah.
And what do they call that place? Let
Or
me
like
see here.
Hollywood Boulevard, Beverly Hills,
What's the name of the place? The tree line, yeah,
Sunset
Windsor
Boulevard,
Boulevard.
Windsor.
I mean, everybody's seen this. Everybody's seen, and it's, you know, everyone's seen the pictures of the palm trees. And there was a report not too long ago that the palm tree, which the palm tree, there's actually, right, if we're talking about a tree that goes back in time since the beginning of time, palm trees, there's been studies that have shown that they're actually immortal. Some palm trees are immortal because they're not, it's not like an actual tree, like a regular tree, like you have an oak tree where it's got, you know, the different bark. It's like, it's almost hollow on the inside, right? And that's why it's so limber, and that's why it can survive in Florida and take the winds and everything. And when you think of a paradise, what do you think of? You think of a palm tree on like a little island on a palm tree,
Oh yeah.
right? What
So,
do you
dude,
have?
real quick, can you search vaporwave?
Vapor
Yeah, we
wave?
can get to that. Yeah, it kind of ties into the Epstein Temple. Go to vaporwave.
This
Yeah,
a
yeah.
video?
Wikipedia. Yeah. So I've talked about this a little bit.
Oh yeah.
It is kind of ridiculous, but it is rooted in truth, and it's an interesting angle,
Is this
especially
the
when
right
we're.
one?
Yeah, this is right. So when we're talking about the Garden of Eden in Florida, keep going. That right there. That's a good example of vaporwave.
Is this
So
meant to symbolize what I think it symbolizes?
I don't know. What is it?
You can interpret this as 9/11, the two towers and the two.
A little bit, yeah, maybe. Keep going. Keep flipping through them.
Some gooner stuff, bro.
That's it. Yeah. So I've made, the argument that, well, just real quick, gopher wood is, dude, I'm fucking retarded. Sorry, I've got my mouth full.
Oh yeah, just how you like it.
All right. Vaporwave it was like a phenomena where, all these people started making this art and this music that had this style that it's vaguely tropical. It's kind of Florida, like it's insinuated that it's Florida, not California. Has like a Caribbean tropical ocean, Miami Vice, 80s digital kind of look to it, pixelated. And vaporwave, what people were kind of talking about is, why is it so relaxing? Why is it so inviting? Why are people so captivated by it? Same thing with like Miami Vice, it put people almost in a trance. They
A lot of palm trees, huh?
Yep, tons of palm trees. Dolphins, so that's another thing. It's like uniquely Florida coded. Now,
Very Freemasonic here. Huh?
lots of Masonic elements. It kind of looked like those Masonic pieces of art you were showing. What do they call them? Drafting tables,
Tracing boards, yeah.
tracing boards. And you'll always see like the grid, like the Gnostic
Matrix.
like demiurge, yeah, matrix grid, the checkered floors, this or that, like everything's on the chessboard, but also like aquatic, so it's kind of like the sunken ruins of Atlantis a lot of times come up, and then the pillars, two pillars, and then palm trees are like an ever-present motif. And so vaporwave, that's kind of what I call more like synthwave or like neo-noir, more like the Cars and stuff. But the true vaporwave is like Florida elements stripped down to their core, just kind of like hodgepodged onto one image. And I've made the argument that the vaporwave phenomenon could be explained by the Garden of Eden in Florida theory. There's a chance that Florida, the memory of Florida, occupies the mind or inhabits some part of the human mind, the distant mind, the subconscious.
Encoded in the DNA.
And we all have this vague memory of Florida, these almost like Adam and Eve in Florida, the palm trees, the flat land, the programming of reality kind of all tied in. So it's, that's not the most well thought out idea I've ever had, but there's something to it. And yeah, it looks like the fucking Epstein. Some of it looks like the Epstein Island.
Which
temple.
again, if you look at this, right, what an interesting piece of architecture. And why would anybody build this and this, right, all these different lines and everything? It's like, again, this seems like it was used for a ritual. You trace these, like the Sufis, the Sufis that spin around and they enter altered states of consciousness from the spinning. You ever seen the spinning dervishes where they just spin for hours and hours and hours, and they enter an altered state of consciousness where they're just flowing? And I think that these lines are used for that, just walking back and forth over and over and over again until you enter another state of consciousness. And
the labyrinth played a
yes,
significant role in initiatory rites and stuff like that throughout history.
100%.
Many cultures.
And one of the things that, right, part of Freemasonry is angels. And one of my favorite concepts ever that I've talked about before is the concept of Pythagorean palaces, where there were certain, and this is towards the Renaissance era around there. There's a reason why all these palaces were built the way that they were built, right? They were chasing that golden ratio, right? Where
Yes.
For the Pythagoreans, God was a number, right? They worship numbers. And towards the Renaissance era, they believed that if you built a building or a palace to certain geometrical proportions, which geometry is part of Freemasonry, right? That they could, if they built it to certain geometrical proportions, the perfect proportions, they could elevate the consciousness within those whoever was in that building. They could elevate the consciousness of the people within it. So that's why Freemasonic lodges are built the way that they're built. That's why a lot of temples are built the way that they're built, because and if you look at like old temples over in the Middle East that have the mandalas on the ceilings, that's for people to again look at and enter altered states of consciousness. If you're tripping your ass off on some psychedelic and you look up at one of those scenes, that's a mandala, right? You're being transported somewhere else. And I think that this concept of Pythagorean palaces, you can take it and you can expand it further to build a city or a town or anywhere else, a bigger thing. And what if that's what Atlantis was, where they built this beautiful architecture and they built up the city to such a perfect geometric proportion that they elevated the consciousness of everybody there, because that's what Atlantis is all about, right? Which is connected to Florida too. You have the Bimini Road and everything else.
Okay,
Where
here. Listen, you want to? All right. I just thought of something real quick. You want to hear it?
Yeah.
Okay, remember we almost did a show about Tomorrowland?
Yes.
Okay, now bear with me. What did they say that palm is in Hebrew?
Tamar, to be erect.
Tamar. Tomorrowland. Tomorrow.
Ooh.
Maybe nothing, maybe something. But what is Tomorrowland about? It is about the mind palace, like the collective mind palace of these people who want to almost start like a breakaway civilization.
No, but you know what they want to start it with little kids, with children.
Yep. It's like the Disney Atlantis in the sky, where
It's
they're
the
gonna
Disney wet dream, bro. They have all these kids. Oh, they're super brilliant. They're
Yep.
using they're elevating and they're doing all these inventions there. It's like it's a bunch of kids, which
Yep.
is
It's like
super creepy.
It's like the Pied Piper almost. Like they take the kids into another dimension.
Yeah, quite literally. So this is the Knights of the Palm Tree initiation ritual, and the word sukkah is the plural of sukkah, meaning booth or tabernacle in Hebrew, which is a walled
Yep.
structure covered with plant material such as overgrowth or palm trees. Okay, so
And that's what the Seminoles live in. Is pretty much Sukkot. Like
yeah, and there's a what in Florida? There's a what?
Oh, what is it?
I think you've been there, no? There's the tabernacle.
Oh yeah. A replica of the whole like temple complex in the desert.
Where is this place at? What's it called again?
It's in Tarpon Springs, I think, or near there.
Tarpon Springs, yeah.
Yeah.
So the primary permanent exhibition in the state is the Leslie Hale Tabernacle in the Wilderness and Bible Museum, located in Tarpon Springs.
Here,
So they
show
have-
us. We can't see that.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it down now.
Nice.
Let me see if they have. Oh, okay. Well, anyways, this is it.
Don't watch the video. We don't want to get copyrighted.
So this is a replica of the tabernacle, and you have the Ark of the Covenant. At least, and we know what did they use this for? They use this to what?
That's
to
crazy.
communicate with God, right?
Go
ahead.
I was just gonna say that's crazy. I gotta go visit there. I've never been there.
Yeah, we should go.
Let's go, dude. Let's do it.
I think we should. Again, we're overdue for a meetup. So there's a few places we can hit up. We can either go to St. Augustine or something. And so this Knights of the Palm Tree initiation ritual, essentially they send the candidate to into this altered state to essentially travel through the desert and think about it, pitching the tabernacle and inducting the candidate, pitching the right oh, you're so erect, bro. You're erect like a palm tree, dude.
Well, here now this is probably a good point to segue. You're right. Pitching a tent, the sexual innuendo, pitching a tent.
You're so erect, bro.
Now, that brings us to something I've talked about a couple times. Palm trees are like palm trees, but when we're playing with words, can we reinterpret the meaning? Palm tree? What tree fits in your palm? What trunk? What wood? Okay,
Oh,
not to be lewd, not trying to be graphic or lewd, or not trying to pull a Robert Sepper here, try to talk about dicks the whole episode.
wait, does he
But
do that?
oh yeah.
Oh. The five officers having assembled in a secure place together with all Sir Knights of the vicinage, an object representing the palm tree is set up in the midst, and the apartment is prepared according to esoteric instruction, and the candidate is introduced. Yeah, they introduce you to a palm tree, all right.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, so not,
brother.
the tree of life, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. There is kind of a conversation to be had about sexual activity that does not result in conception or, pregnancy. You One way to interpret the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which I did not come up with, it's one of the most popular alternative explanations, is sexuality. So the tree of life is like a family tree. Life, having kids, being fruitful, what the Bible tells us to do. And then the tree of knowledge of good and evil is kind of, according to this theory, according to this interpretation, is all sexual activity that does not result in the conception of an egg, right? Fertilization of an egg. So that could be masturbation. That could be, various types of whatever types of sex that are, more fornicative by nature because they cannot result in having children. People have long interpreted that as the uh, knowledge, fruit of knowledge of good and evil, because it's kind of death. It's those life forces are not completing their mission; they're dying or they're serving some other mission, maybe a more selfish mission, like people talk about enlightenment. Oh, fuck yourself, ejaculation. Juan's talked about the skull fuck method a couple times,
Yes, which it
and
actually works. I'm not
I
even.
bet, I bet,
So
but
check this out. Oh, graceful shaft that sendest thy shade afar. Oh, brother, you're so erect. So this is actually the initiation ritual and what they do, and they assign the candidate a name. The candidate is giving a new name, Tamar, signifying a palm tree, and is inducted as a novitate of the palm tree. So again, there's a whole sect of Freemasonry that focuses on the palm tree and the shafts. I'm sure I'm sure they love that, the shafts. And if you I related this to the parallel lines touching, they are said to all right, so these two lines represent Saint John the Baptist and Saint John the Evangelist. But they really refer to the uh solstitial points Cancer and Capricorn in the zodiac. So I don't know if you can speak on this at all, Longo, where the first recorded example of the Cancer constellation came from the second millennium BCE, where it was known to Akkadian astronomers as the sun of the south. This was most likely due to its position at the summer solstice during ancient antiquity. By classic antiquity, Cancer came to be called the gate of man, based on the belief that it was a portal through which souls came and went from the heavens.
yeah.
So,
Well, Sirius, Sirius is in Cancer, the sign of Cancer.
that the dog star?
Yep. So that's, a big focal point for a lot of
It's God backwards.
mysticism and occult, interests. The underworld people associate with Sirius and Osiris, and, you know, but well, yeah. So palm tree, you're absolutely right, Juan. The Templars, the Masons, they're very phallic in a lot of their attitudes and what they venerated. They were into a lot of the hanky panky, and
Allegedly.
but palm tree with the masturbation, we've heard about skull and bones initiations where you have to like jerk off or pretend to jerk off in front of everyone. Um, but also, as far as what was the sin, maybe the fruit of knowledge, good and evil. there's also in the Bible, there's various kind of warnings or at least lessons about pulling out, right? Which kind of reiterate the concept of being sexual without being fruitful is perhaps looked down upon or opens up a whole nother avenue of human understanding that is perhaps true and is, what welcomed like genius and industry and kind of going against nature. And when I say going against nature, I'm not bringing like a ethical or moral side to it. I'm saying going against nature in the side of coming up with all these industries to make our lives easier, to kind of get around some of nature's defense mechanisms or firewalls like clothing, fire, technology, things that lifted us up away from the other animals. People point to a shift in sexuality early on as being what really, if we're going to look at this in a kind of evolutionary uh, lens, like what branched us off from the other animals is, not many animals have like sex for fun, but some of the ones who do are very intelligent and almost look like they are alien species as well, like dolphins, right? So going back to the vaporwave thing, there's dolphins in a lot of that artwork, and dolphins are known to be kind of malicious, conniving, and also they have sex for gratification.
They're a
which-
little grapey.
Now, apparently, Epstein liked dolphins, or at least he definitely liked Atlantis. But all right, here
So
let's talk
let
about
me
some other trees. Go ahead.
let me just bring this up in Royal Ark or Royal Arch Freemasonry, right? Because earlier we talked about how they hide it in plain sight. Well, these are some illustrations from some of the different levels of Royal Arch Freemasonry. And what do you see on the walls? You have the palm trees. Yeah, he could be, right? Maybe he might be the psyop. And then if you take the scientific name of the date palm as equals 69, which we see 69 a lot where, right? Cancer, that portal, and we see it as right the cornerstone in Royal Ark, which again, it's part, in my opinion, I think that they understand these esoteric concepts, and you can take these two pillars as, in my opinion, holding up right reality, right?
Yeah.
And it holds up the portal into which you could go in through. So
You were asking about like the sun of the south and Cancer, and what does that have to do with things? Well, Cancer is up there at the top of the arch in Masonry, which is interesting because in an astrology chart, Cancer's at the bottom of the arch. So they kind of flip that a little bit.
I think that's part of it though, bro, because if you look at the tracing boards of Freemasonry, the directions are actually inverted.
Also,
Right.
since we're on kind of a little bit of
Look at the directions. North is here, east is up, south, west.
yeah. Yeah, in an astrology chart, east is supposed to be in the left. But since we're kind of still on sexuality a little bit, the glyph for Cancer, people know Cancer is the crab, but the glyph for Cancer is 69.
Yes.
So there's another little, thing. Now palm trees, the Bach saga puts a kind of a big emphasis on palm trees as well. But all right,
But let's touch on something that you wanted to talk about, because this is what really stemmed the whole thing for me, is when I was looking into Robert Flood, and Robert Flood interprets the tree of life as far as Kabbalah goes as, in my opinion, an upside down palm tree, right? It's inverted. It's not supposed to be like this. I flipped it, but it should be up. So the root and the way that they interpret it is right. The root, everything comes from God, which is the root, and then reality itself sort of bleeds down from that.
so you
But
flipped upside down.
I flipped it upside down. Yeah, it doesn't go like
Wow.
this. Let me
Okay. Well,
it goes like this. So this is
right.
Robert Flood's Tree of Life, which it's one of the only ones that's interpreted as a tree, but in my opinion, it's a palm tree. Okay, because if you look at the anatomy of this is a palm tree. In my opinion, it's the same, right? Obviously, it's got these little offshoots, but so does a date palm, right? They have
Yeah.
these little offshoots. So I think that
Totally.
he was in the know. One of the main
really good.
guys one of the main proponents of Rosicrucianism, right? Robert Flood.
Yeah.
So
He was also big on writing. I don't know about big, but he remarked on how star forts had sacred geometry in them. He was one of the first guys to talk about the mystical like meaning or interpretation of star forts, saying, well, if they look like sacred symbols, even if they weren't designed for that, it still has some significance.
and one last thing before we move on that is pretty interesting to me is that this involves Philip K. Dick. Yeah, let's not I talk about Carl Jung, but let's move on. I'll save this for a presentation, but point being that John of Patmos that wrote Revelation, Patmos is known as the land of the palm tree, I believe.
Mm.
So Patmos, land of the palm tree. Yeah, the Patmos is a Greek island in the Aegean Sea, famous as the place where the Apostle John was exiled and wrote the book of Revelation, often associated with the name Palmosa and the palm tree's historical. Historically, the rugged rocky landscape has very few palm trees, but I'll have to find the slide. There's a lot of stuff here, obviously 124 slides, and I'm just jumping around. And as you can see, the rabbit hole that I was in at the time with the palm tree and all of its
Yeah.
connections. And then I didn't even link it to alchemy or the Matrix. There's so many different things. Once you start to really
Yeah.
sit down and look at it, it's like, whoa, what?
Well, it's
You
cool,
know?
man. And we were talking about the fig a little bit before. You've heard about figs and wasps?
No.
Okay, so figs are fertilized, or kind of like they reproduce in a very interesting way. Some fig trees rely on wasps to crawl into their fruit, and if you want to talk about symbolism and allegory, okay, wasps lay their children in figs, the fruit. And when we eat figs, sometimes they have little pieces of wasps in them. And the figs, yep, this is true. So figs, many people do not believe figs are vegan because they have dead wasps in them. And the wasp crawls in and it rips their wings off when they crawl in. They have to squeeze in a tiny little hole and it rips their wings off, so they're dead. Then they lay their babies in in the fig. But, kind of like the chicken or the egg, how'd this really start? They're not just laying their kids in the fig. Well, yeah, they do. They lay eggs in the fig. They die in the fig because they can't leave. And then the males wake up first. They hatch first. And as they're leaving, they impregnate their unborn sisters in the fig.
Just got weird.
You gotta get a soundboard. Like, oh hell no. Yep, one of those. So they impregnate their unborn sisters
Yikes.
in while they're still in like a larva form, and then they die. They don't live very long at all. The male wasps, they're dead like right away. And then the female wasps crawl out of the little hole because they're small and their wings aren't fully developed. And it's their job to fly to a new fig. So that's how figs and wasps. I'm probably missing some specifics on there, but
You know what's interesting, bro?
What?
That if we look at the one of the stories, um, the sister of Absalom, the third son of King David, this
Ooh,
Tamar
yeah.
is
Back to tomorrow.
raped by her half brother
Oh,
Amnon. Right, this is in the Bible. 2 years later, he is assassinated. But right, the way you're talking about the wasp impregnating,
yeah.
being involved in incest sort of thing, right? Kind of made me think about that. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting connections when it comes to
When you say wasps, when you say it like that, wasps involved in incest,
wasps.
it literally makes me think of Jaime Lannister and Cersei Lannister, like Game of Thrones, or like a waspy, like white Anglo-Saxon Protestant rich family, like having an incestual relationship, like
And
wasp.
they you mentioned pulling out earlier, and the three women
Did
and
I?
yeah, you did. There
That's
are three
crazy.
women
I
and
never
two
even heard of
towns
that.
named Tamar in the Bible. The women are the wife of Ur, the son of Judah. After Ur's death, she becomes the mother of Judah's twin son Perez and Zerah. Perez went to become the ancestor of King David and thus Jesus Christ. Tamar is one of the four women mentioned by name in the Matthean genealogy of Christ. And then Onan, and this is where I learned through my esoteric studies what coitus interruptus was. Right. So Onan performed coitus interruptus, and I was like, bro, what? Like, what does that even mean? Right? His actions displeased God, and so, like his older brother, God killed him. At this point, Judah is portrayed as viewing Tamar to be cursed, and therefore being reluctant to give her his remaining and youngest son,
Oh yeah.
Sheila. But yeah,
So
coitus interruptus is pulling out.
yeah, pulling out, it could also be like edging or like gooning, which is really big right now. And this really ties back to Jeffrey Epstein a little bit, because you ever see that Robert Sepper video where he was like really trying really hard to like make the case that Jeffrey Epstein was like a uh master, like not master, but like a tantric practitioner, and he was like awakening his kundalini by getting massages from like 13-year-olds.
I never really watched that guy's stuff, bro.
Yeah.
And
Let me well, you don't have to. Let me give you an impression of how it went.
oh god, here we go.
Little St. James Island is an island in the Caribbean. 5 minutes later. By not ejaculating and forcing the forces upward, one is able to attain new levels of consciousness. It's like, I already made this joke like a week ago. It's like, Nepal is a country in Asia. This is your average Robert Sepper video. Just name any country. So, like, Nepal is a country in Asia known for its rich history and cuisine. By the end of the video, no matter what the video is about, by the end of the video, he's talking about you jerking off or not jerking off.
Really? Oh, he
Yep.
talks about semen retention and stuff like that?
Yep. I mean, that's how you get it in there. Dress it up however you want. What it really is trying to get involved in everyone's sex life. Okay. And I think it's nasty and weird. And no matter what he tries to make a video about, he has to tie it back into that. It's like compulsive behavior, and it's alarming for me.
Huh. Yeah, no,
So,
somebody actually had wrote to me on Instagram, and they were like, "Hey, Seth first said that he's going to be doing a podcast soon. You should get him on your podcast." And I was like, I wrote back, I'm like, "Well, I don't really I I've never watched any of it. I've watched maybe like the beginning of a video or something, but I've never like sat down and watched this stuff." And I'm
yeah.
like, and if he's gonna go on a podcast for the first time, I doubt he would go on my podcast because my podcast isn't even that big. So I think he would save that for a
Yeah.
bigger show. And I'm sure he's gotten a bunch of people reaching out to him to do their show. So I was
Yeah.
like, I don't really know. Now you're telling me this about him, where it's all about edge
Yeah.
lords and holding it in. I know that, bro.
Yeah.
That's
Now,
news to me.
listen, I'm not against the principle. I'm actually completely in favor of not wasting those vital fluids.
Very
Not
box saga of you.
Yeah, not wasting them as much as possible. But the fact that he tries to get up on people and either make the, try to influence them to conform to his, beliefs, try and tell people that things are bad, like it's coming from a very Gnostic place that I really don't like. And he always puts, he says like, he makes these little disclaimers like, "Oh, I'm not telling people what to do or this or that, but our interests betray who we are. They reveal who we are." Why Longo gotta hate so much? Because I'm a hater. Because I'm a hater.
I gotta hate, bro.
And when you grow up watching someone, it's not so much like don't meet your heroes, but after a time, you're influenced by people a lot. After a certain point, you kind of only get let down by what you find out. And for Sepper, I wish he'd impressed me. Not that that's his job or it's important or I deserve that, but because, and what Juan's saying, like he doesn't really interact with his fans truly. He's very distant and behind the screen, and he likes to keep a big distance, like a buffer between him and his supporters. He has a very hard time, it seems, being like authentic. I mean, he seems like he has to sit down and type out every idea he has, or else it's not really his. Like, he can't just be himself in front of a camera. Sometimes he walks around and like films himself live, briefly, or he takes some questions on X, but usually his camera's off. There's something, he just strikes me as he can't really be himself, or he's not happy or comfortable with himself, or he's being very deceptive. You don't have to be like a public attention seeking person, but he does want attention. And the way he goes about it, I think are weird. He's very vague about his murky ancestry. He's openly said he's Jewish before, but if you call him Jewish, he gets angry. He is obsessed with like Germany during World War II, and really tries to tiptoe the line and be like, "Yeah, I'm based. Yeah, I'm based. But he's really far from that. So who his father was is kind of suspicious. The fact that he seems to have a totally different view from his father on certain historic events. And again, I don't know the ins and the outs. He knows his father better than anyone probably, but Robert Sepper strikes me as untrustworthy. He has an agenda. He seems to have a lot of anger and bitterness. As someone who's not very racially sensitive, I can say I do think, my opinion, that Robert Sepper is an actual racist who thinks very, very low of black and brown people.
Whoa.
Not just critical, not just like critical of like the culture and crime. And I really do think he looks very down on them from what I've seen, because people hide that stuff. With me, what you see is what you get. Take take it or leave it.
What was that?
But
so I misspoke earlier, right? It was Patmos. There was a single palm, and then Jericho is known as the city of palm. I just want to correct that real quick, but
yeah, Juan's trying to move on. He's not trying to piss off his.
I don't care. I don't know the guy. I mean, and to his defense, right, about being socially awkward. I mean, if we're in this community, we're weird, right? I'm socially awkward, right?
Yeah.
And I think some people are more comfortable behind a screen. I mean, I think it's just to come to his defense, right? I don't know the guy, but that's probably right. Maybe we're all a little autistic on some level, right? I
Yeah.
think if you're into this sort of stuff, you gotta be able to think outside the box. But again, I don't. It was just interesting that you brought him up, and somebody had hit me up on Instagram about him, and I was like, dude, I've never even, like, I'm not a fan, right? Like, I don't sit there and watch his stuff, but sure. And
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, man. You know, I grew up watching his stuff. Like in high school, I really liked Robert Sepper's videos. And then I get a little older. The kind of the kind of vague right wing tilt to his video kind of rubs off after a while, and you realize there's not really a whole lot of like substance or solutions in there. It's and hey, my YouTube channel is a fucking mess, so it's not like I'm saying I've got it all figured out over here. But if someone's asking my opinion, which no one really did, I I find him untrustworthy, dark, and deceptive. But yeah, and he's attempting to steer the right wing, the nationalistic people in a direction that I don't agree with. And there you go.
Yeah, this is what we get from talking about those girthy palm trees and being erect, and you're casting your shadow on me, bro. Oh,
He's not short. Someone said he's short. He's not short. He's tall. I know people who've met him. Believe it or not.
yeah, he's not like Narco over here. 5 foot. What? 5'3" is it, dude? 5'3", 5'5".
Yeah, give or take the 6 inches.
It just your mom
yeah.
that your mom likes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've heard it before, bro. You can't. I got you before you got me.
Give
You
or
see how
take.
well I know you, bro?
Give or take 6 or 7 inches. If your
graceful shaft that
your mom's around.
thy shade afar. Oh, a wreck like a palm. Anyways, yes, the palm trees I think is a good strong candidate to being one of the tree of life, or the tree of good and evil, and of the knowledge of good and evil. And yeah, I'm gonna be doing a whole breakdown of this. I actually have to remember a whole bunch of stuff that I that I wrote down here, because at the time I was kind of a schizo in a schizo state of mind, putting all this information together. And you can start drawing parallels where there are none, right? When it comes to this sort of stuff. Because it's part of that. And that's why I had to take a break for so long, dude. Where I mean, you know this. I mean, you took a break too, because once you start looking into a lot of this stuff, it quite literally drives you insane. And everything around you can be collapsing. Your life can be collapsing right in front of you. And you're just like, what is the esoteric secrets of alchemy be? What are they? And then like your life's falling apart. And like at the end of it all, you look and you just got to realize one thing, that there's only God, and you got to find God and be good with God. And the rest is like, none of this information, you can't do anything with this information, right? Like it does nothing for you at the end of the day. And like, I had to step back and be like, what are we even doing here? And dude, when I was away, like I was away. I did not keep up with like any conspiracies, nothing of anything. And I'm just now getting back into everything, and I'm just like, like do I want to be here right now? And honestly, I know it's like riding a bike, but I've forgotten a lot of the stuff. I even like the homunculus stuff, bro. Like, what was I even doing? Felt like it was a different person doing. It was it's like a mind virus, dude. I'm serious. So I had to step back and really take a breather, and I'm just like, ooh, you gotta just kind of let it marinate. And I even thought about deleting the channel, deleting everything, and like just stepping away and just disappearing. But
yeah, not a bad option.
That's not a bad option.
Just kidding.
But yeah, I've talked about some stuff that I'm not looking back at. I'm not particularly proud of, But again, it comes with the territory, and once you look into these things, it really, no pun intended, imprints you. And it's funny because I was at Bible study one night, and one of the guys, we were talking about, I forgot what we talked about. We brought up Genesis, and one of the guys brings up the Nephilim, and he looks over at me and goes, yeah, this is a little weird. I know you probably don't want to talk about this or really know much about this, but the Nephilim. And he started getting into the Nephilim, and I'm just like thinking in the back of my mind, I'm like, brother, you don't even know who you're talking to right now. I was like,
For real.
yeah, I was like, that's the cool part of the, I just kind of like brushed it off, but I didn't really go into it. And but yeah, it's just like once you're in it, bro, it drives you insane, and you start talking about whatever this guy, maybe he's experiencing the same thing. When you look into the esoteric and the occult, when you stare into the abyss, it starts staring back, and sometimes it's not good. It's not good, bro.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, here, there's some other candidates that we got to talk about before we wrap up. All right. So we talked about gumbo limbo real quick. There's also another one that I know we're gonna have fun pronouncing. Lignum vitae.
ligamine nuts.
Lignum.
Got
Lignum.
him.
He's lignum.
Hold on, I got the soundboard. Got him, bro. Whatever. Who
Yeah.
cares? I don't have the sound. What's it called? What's it
Your-
called? Liga what?
Your mom's boyfriend's name's Vitae, right? Lignum vitae. Lignum, lignum vitae.
Ligmun.
Num, like Nancy.
This one right here. Wood.
Yep, that one. Yep.
Tree.
Lignum vitae, Florida. Just search for Florida. Yeah. There you go. Hollywood.
Which one?
Hollywood. Just go to all. Like, see what the. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, native to South Florida and the Caribbean.
Yep. So this one is called the Tree of Life. Lignum vitae, the wood of life, the tree of life. And that's had that name for hundreds of years. So the Spanish came and heard good things about this tree. It's used for medicine, some other things, but very valuable, cherished tree by the Florida Indians. Yeah, so lignum is wood or tree, and vitae is life. Go to the Wikipedia for it. See what it says.
I didn't see it. Wikipedia. I know you like to dig deeper than Wikipedia, bro. But
Oh my god, guys! You say something once to Juan that he doesn't like. He remembers it for the rest of his life.
Ligum. Hey! We're making jokes about ligamine nuts, but lignum vitae is Latin for wood of life. I got a wood for you here, bro. That's full of life.
Got some wood of life.
Yeah, let's go. They used to call me that back in college. Lignum vitae.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. All right. And it's interesting, right? They call it morning wood, right? When you wake up when you wake up erect, right?
Yeah.
They call it morning wood. So it's interesting, the wood of life. And there's the morning wood is the wood of life.
Yeah. Now if you really want to go down that route, this is a good comment. Thanks,
Right here.
Eric. Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, no, right here. Look at this. Palo Santo, Spanish for holy stick.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, palo can mean wood too. I don't know if it's always stick.
No. Palo can
Is
mean
it?
tree.
Tree, yeah.
Tree
Okay.
or stick.
Cool.
So Palo Santo is the holy stick.
Yeah. Now in Sanskrit or Hindu, or not Hindu, Hindi, or one of those languages, probably Sanskrit, penis is lingam. So lignum, I think, is Latin. Lingam is penis in Sanskrit. So that's pretty close.
I thought that said heavy balls for a second. That's why I laughed, but it just says heavy bales. But that would have been crazy if it said heavy balls. Like we would have just ended the show right then and there, bro.
They make mallets though, like cricket. Yeah, cricket balls, mallets.
What came first, cricket or golf? Because I know we've gotten into the esoteric interpretations of golf and what golf kind of signifies, right? Because the rich play a lot of golf, and they play it essentially on the graves of the indigenous people at times, because a lot of these golf courses are built on old burial mounds and essentially graveyards, right, of people that the indigenous people.
Now, the tree of life is also the Kabbalistic concept. We were kind of touching on that before. There's tons of Kabbalah centers in Florida. Numerology's been used in Florida ever since the Spanish first got here. They were twisting the numbers and choosing special dates for certain things. And then by the time we get to like the Civil War or before the Civil War, 1845, Florida's birthday was selected following, principles of Kabbalah and Gematria. 3/3, March 3rd, Florida's birthday, was
Mhm.
chosen by the head. He was the senator of Florida, Florida's first senator, first Jewish senator in American history. He was also one of the leading Freemasons in Florida and the head of at least one lodge. So he selected Florida's 3/3 birthday, 33. The Coral Castle's over there and the zip code 33033. So if you want to interpret the tree of life as Kabbalah, there's plenty of Kabbalah in Florida, so we can check that off the list.
Yo, check this
Now-
out. Check
yeah.
this part out. So this guy here recounts using lignum vitae, presumably decocted to cure himself of a venereal disease, the French pox, presumably syphilis. And then this other guy here, according to T.H. White's version of the Arthurian legend, the once and future King Merlin's wand is made of lignum vitae and has magical power. So quite literally, right? Because that's also another thing that we talk about when we talk about Crowley, right? Oh, my wand is it's so powerful. Well, part of that was what sexual rites, sexual rituals and things that they would do in order to invoke altered states of consciousness, which we have essentially sex magic in there, where they believe that at orgasm you quite literally became one with the universe. And they would do these we talked about Parsons not too long ago, right? In JPL, which is connected to Hubbard and Florida, where he was using sex magic as a way to tap into the source, I guess you could call it, right? That's what they believe. But it seems like lignum vitae was the original Hollywood, which we've all heard that before. Oh, Hollywood is the tree where they made wands out of, and Hollywood, California is where everything that goes down, right? It's a really bad place because of that. Well, it turns out might have been lignum vitae. Look at my
Yep.
nuts.
Yep. And we do have a Hollywood, Florida. Hollywood, Florida's in
Oh, that's
between.
right. Yes.
In between Miami and Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale.
It's the Gooch of Florida.
Kinda. Oh, well, since we're on this, Florida is almost like the pelvic floor of America.
It's
Well,
the
between Florida and
the phallus of the US, bro.
Yeah, and Louisiana is like the testicles, and then Texas is like the prostate or something.
We're in the shaft right now. You're at towards the tip. I'm towards the shaft over here.
Yeah.
The girthy part. How do we get
Well, here, we talked about the tree of life, baobab, kapok, oak, lignum vitae, gumbo limbo, the palm trees. Now let's talk about the tree of knowledge of good and evil real quick. We already talked about the sexuality kind of. Now, we do have a poison apple tree here in Florida. It's called the manchineal. So Manchine.
I'm not typing all that out, brother. The
Yep.
hippomane manchileo.
Yep, go down. Click on the Wikipedia. So the manchineal tree is widely considered the deadliest or most poisonous tree in the world. And there's not many of them, so they're kind of hard to find, so they're not that big of a problem. But the Spanish conquistadors, when they first came to Florida, they would drop dead from these things all the time. The manchineal tree is so poisonous that if you're standing under one, just brushing into leaves or rubbing the trunk too hard can cause burns.
Oh.
And if you are underneath the tree when it rains, if rain touches the tree, then drops on you, you can get a burn from that. You can get serious burns from that.
Whoa.
Yep. Every single part of the tree is highly toxic. Now, allegedly, um, some animals or reptiles can get close to the tree and have no issues with it,
Milky white sap.
but the fruit can kill you, even though no deaths in recent times have been reported. The Spanish said people would drop dead all the time because these taste good at first. They taste like a spicy apple, like a nice, fresh, kind of bland-ish, more mild tasting apple with like a peppery, almost like gingery, burning flavor to it. That's kind of good at first, and then the burning gets more and more intense, and your throat closes up. And people survive it, so it's not like it's a guaranteed, um, you know, ticket to hell or ticket to the afterlife. But it is extremely poisonous and deadly, and every single part of the plant is dangerous.
What
So
was the other apple we talked about earlier? Because knowing my ass, I'm gonna be in the Everglades one day, and I'm gonna be like, "Oh, this is what was the other apple that we talked about? The one that where the gator had it in its mouth? Is it
pond apple you're talking
the
about.
pond apple?" I'd be like, "Man, this looks like a pond." I start eating. I'm like, "Dang, I kind of remember Narco talking about being it's a little spicy, you know?" And then just
Mhm.
like, "Oh," and then look at this. Our boy Juan Ponce de Leon died shortly after an injury incurred in battle with the
Yep,
Calusa in Florida, being struck by an arrow that had been poisoned with manchineel sap, so the white
yep.
milky substance of the
Yeah, so
and
Ponce de Leon, what are the odds? He's looking for the Fountain of Youth, or pretty much the same thing as the Garden of Eden. He's looking for this, and he's killed by the poison. He's killed by a projectile coated in this poison. By the way, not to give this guy too much attention, but the word Christ, according to some people, Christ is the technical term for applying poison to a projectile, like an arrow or a weapon like that, to Christ something, like anointed. Christ means like anointed in oil. You can
yeah, the
also
anointed one.
you can also anoint something in poison. So Christing is to apply poison to something. Pretty
And
interesting.
2 things that are interesting, right? What was allegedly Juan Ponce de Leon looking for the Fountain of Youth for? Remember what he was looking at
His sexual impotency.
yes,
He had
with
ED,
yes, and also it's interesting that there's a lot
allegedly.
of allegedly, there's a lot of correlation between witches and apples. So I'm thinking of maybe
Yeah,
this has something to do with it where, right, like a witch always has the apple, and it's interesting that we give apples to teachers.
yeah,
Right? So it's like there's like all these different connections that you can and threads you can pull at, but yeah, Juan Ponce de Leon again. That's crazy. I didn't know he died from that. I knew he died from being injured,
yep.
but I didn't know this connection with the
That's why they couldn't heal him and why his death was so agonizing. Um,
yikes.
but there's stories of like 20 people dropping dead from landing on an island. All the people start eating this tree right away, and then they all drop dead. The Spanish, were very aware of how deadly this tree was. So that's an option. That's a good one for the tree of knowledge of good and evil. But also,
More evil on this one. More evil.
but also, well, they said, if you eat this, you'll die. So how many fruits can that be? There are actually not that many fruit in the world that will
Ah.
kill you, or right away, just from me taking one bite. Um,
Oh, yeah.
the
Yeah.
Manchineel can. So as far as knowledge, I don't know what knowledge or wisdom is being granted there, but if you want to go down that road, that takes us to what I think is the most logical explanation. If this were an actual food, an actual fruit or food that was ingested and caused the changes described in the Bible, um, the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, when Eve and Adam ate it, it's said that their eyes were opened, like an epiphany or an awakening or realization. But also, you can interpret that as pupils quite literally dilating, your pupils getting opened, the eyes open, and you see the world like gods. You on a mushroom trip, you feel like you are, like you have access to hidden information, like a layer of obstruction was peeled away from the universe, and you can see, some of the answers or explanations visually and the programming behind reality. And so that's one thing that, magic mushrooms have been proposed as the fruit of knowledge of good and evil. People say, well, mushrooms aren't fruit. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Mushroom is fruit. It is the fruiting body of the organism. It is the sexual apparatus of the organism that is fruit. That's the biblical definition of fruit, and that's the scientific definition of fruit. And thank you, Juan. That's correct. I didn't come up with this. Terrence McKenna didn't come up with this. This has been
John Marco Allegro talked about it, The Holy Mushroom and the Cross. That was one of the first books I ever read.
Yeah, we sell that book here too. 1,000 years at least, Christians have been painting mushrooms in art. From the Garden of Eden right up until the Last Supper, some people point to mushrooms. Again, I'm not fully endorsing like this Gnostic belief that the only way to understand God is mushrooms. Totally not. But as far as what set us down the path originally of this understanding that goes beyond just harmony with nature, industry, warfare, deception, makeup, like all these fallen angel technologies or whatever. Mushrooms may have complicated life down here. I'm not saying for better or for worse, but complicated and opened up the doors of genius that bring knowledge, like it says, but also good and evil, right? So knowledge of good, but also knowledge of evil. So
have you seen this? The Psychotria nervosa, the wild coffee? Because I looked up what sort of plants or fruits can induce psychedelic trips, and this came up, which is known as the Seminole balsamo.
Yeah.
And apparently it's
there's
reports of DMT in it, which
yep. We also have types of acacia that are native to Florida, and acacia is in the Bible. People say the burning bush was acacia.
Yeah.
But also, we know Florida has plenty of mushrooms. We have two of the most popular types of mushrooms, three actually. What are they called? Psilocybin cubensis. So conventional psilocybin mushrooms
purple ringers
are native to Florida. It's not just a livestock thing. They were here before livestock ever came to Florida, but they do grow in the livestock. They grow in the poop. But so psilocybin cubensis is native to Florida, especially the Gulf Coast. So it can grow out of the ground naturally. Then we also have Amanita persicina. Amanita persicina. So not muscaria.
Oh.
But Amanita persicina is pretty much the exact same thing, except it is orange or peach colored instead of red. That's pretty much the only difference. These
Will this one give you trips too?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's the same thing as Amanita muscaria. It's the same thing. It's like a slight offshoot. Slight difference. But so yeah, these ones work. And trust me.
Trust you.
But then also we do have another one that's very interesting. Psilocybin tampanensis.
I'm gonna butcher this.
Tampanensis.
Tampa.
Search psilocybin tamponensis.
A menstrual cup. Let me look it up. Psilocybin. Tampaniensis, right?
Tamponensis. So yeah, psilocybin
Tampa, Florida.
tamponensis is one of, the mushrooms are not that popular, but psilocybin tamponensis produces what they're called sclera. What does it say? It says it somewhere.
What?
It's basically they're like truffles. They're truffle-like masses that grow beneath the ground, like
Right.
truffles, and they're called philosopher's stones. What are the odds of that? And this is one of the most popular mushroom.
Whoa.
This is one of the most popular mushrooms in the world. So this guy found some in Tampa in like the 60s or 70s, brought some, they made it to the black market, went over to Amsterdam, and now philosopher's stone is one of the number one recreational mushrooms in the world used today. And they come from Tampa, Florida.
Whoa, dude.
Philosopher's stone. How's that for Garden of Eden and the fruit of knowledge of good and evil? So
Yeah. Damn, that's crazy. I didn't know that part, bro.
yeah.
That's pretty wild. And again, like how I mentioned earlier, the book of Genesis is looked at by alchemists as the blueprints on how to
And,
create the philosopher's stone.
and also, not only are these nicknamed philosopher's stones, they also are evocative or kind of reminiscent of the phoenix. So psilocybin tamponensis, they can grow in poop, I think, but they are actually kind of famous for surviving wildfires. Like they pop up after a fire.
Really?
So yeah, so those truffles, the philosopher's stones, can survive fire. Like the whole, like a whole pine forest will be burned down, and the psilocybin tamponensis survives because of the philosopher's stone. So it's almost like the phoenix mushroom too. They
Mm-hmm.
have this relationship with fire and forest fires, because in Florida the forests burn themselves down like every year on purpose, naturally. Lightning, tree falls. But so that's a really good candidate for the tree of knowledge of good and evil if it were a literal fruit or food or plant. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting, dude. I had no idea about this. The philosopher's stone. That's crazy.
Yeah, the little apple of death, philosopher's stone, all the different types of mushrooms.
Look right
Yeah.
here. So it says in nature, sclerotia are produced by fungus as a rare form of protection from wildfires and other natural disasters. That's crazy, dude.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild. So what else do we got?
Oh,
What's
no. Also, not super related, but the first recreational or just legal, semi-legal mushroom dispensary in America was in Tampa too, in Ybor City. So,
really?
yeah.
Yeah, I took mushrooms one time and I saw demons while I was on them, and I didn't take them ever again.
Jeez.
Yeah, I actually grew them myself. Hey, 5-leaf clover, appreciate you with the damn. This dude's been gifting people memberships every week now. 5-leaf clover is the real OG. I appreciate you, bro.
Shout
But
out.
yeah, I did end up growing my own, and it was one of the weirdest experiences that I think I took too much, bro. I took too much. And I was tripping my balls off for like 12 hours straight. I woke up the next morning and I couldn't like differentiate like reality and what like this. I was in like this weird state. of like in between, like the metaphysical and physical, bro.
Mhm.
I questioned my reality. Like it was to that. I questioned my family was like even real. Like it was that was crazy. It
Damn,
was
bro.
yeah, and yeah, I
Truman
saw.
Show.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. So I never did it again. And what I actually
Well,
did was I created some. I was able to get. You ever heard of Mad Honey?
yeah.
I was able to get some of that. I never tried it. I literally bought it and like I never tried it. And then what I did with my leftovers of the psilocybin, it was B strain, I believe it was. I ended up making what they call blue honey, and I mixed it with honey, and it infuses the psilocybin in the honey, and I would use that sometimes to make coffee or like put to sweeten my coffee up or anything that I was drinking. And at times I could tell when I would put a little bit too much because things would start, you get real hot and you start like the colors start to get a little bit more vivid than usual. Like, I think I put too big of a spoonful in my coffee today because I can feel it. So I was like microdosing, mushrooms for a while, but I never took like a full dosage because it freaked me out, dude. I was like hearing voices and it was like one of the craziest experiences. It was wild. Never again. Oh man. But yeah.
Well,
The colors start buzzing.
you'll have to tell me more about that sometime.
Yeah, for sure.
So we went through the different trees we think may be the tree of life, the trees we think may be the tree of knowledge for good and evil. If you guys have any good ideas or recommendations, put them in the comments. Tell us what you think the tree of life or tree of knowledge could be. And yeah, guys, go subscribe to Juan on YouTube if you aren't already. And we'll see you next week on Thursday. Anything you want to close with, Juan?
Like my
Damn,
hair?
bro, put that back on, bro.
All
Put that
right,
back on.
Sorry.
Yeah, put that back on.
All right. I look better like this?
Yeah. All right. All right. We're
Woo!
good.
All right. Now, dude, this was awesome. I'm gonna be putting together that presentation whenever. It's obviously you see it's a lot of material. It's a lot of different connections. But yeah, this was a ton of fun, and yeah, I really enjoyed this episode.
I'm just teasing, man. You can keep your head off.
No, it's
your
all
head
right.
off.
It's fine. I'm self-conscious about that.
Looks good. No, it looks good. But all right, guys, stay tuned. We'll see you this coming Thursday, probably. All right. Adios.
Yep. Wild Indian, yeah.
Hey V, line them up.
I'm a wild Indian, you know I go crazy. Ain't really Indian, that boy fugazi. I just keep it player, you can never play me. You got an ass so fat, girl, let's make a baby. And another one. Then I'm back to the trap, I'm trying double some. She a bad woke chick and I love her tongue. We some jurisdiction boys, we some 101s. Look, don't compare me to no Martin dog, I'm like Malcolm X. Die about our freedom, we'll leave a crack and stretch. Round of applause, boy, you know we clapping text. Chucky dog, child's play, yeah, nigga, that's what's next. Open up the cans just like Arizona. Pull up mad stuff like we got the Rona. We set up jurisdictions when we buy the corner. How you claiming that's your hood and you not the owner? Be the B, I just pulled up in the need for speed. Free the land, tell the colonizers that they need to leave. Wild Indian up in my veins, you know how we bleed. You ain't gotta lie about who we is, dog, just keep it G. We at war, we can't keep the peace. Since we at war, gotta keep the peace. Whack a cone, then I meditate. Should I need to breathe? Keep a Olmec head when we slide, dog, cause we the shit.
Like my niggas said, bitch, we the sheets. I can't keep the peace. If it pop off, then I want a piece. I'm just on release. I'm in go mode, motherfuck the thief. In these streets like EBT, when we at war, make peace with me. I don't give a damn, understand. Fuck who stole this land, white or black or tan. Understand, it's fuck who stole this land. Might have seen me get little buddy these hands. He wasn't no abo man. A lot of these dudes is Sambo man. They full of shit like my ammo can. What they call an N-word out the wrong mouth as an ambulance. Wild Indian, get it in advance, or you can post date it. Ask around, I'm the most hated. Straight sacred, they stole acreage. Yo, ape shit, show ain't shit. It won't be televised, I don't tape shit.
Be the B, I just pulled up in the need for speed. Free the land, tell the colonizers that they need to leave. Wild Indian up in my veins, you know how we bleed. You ain't gotta lie about who we is, dog, just keep it G. We at war, we can't keep the peace. Since we at war, gotta keep the peace. Whack a cone, then I meditate. Should I need to breathe? Keep a Olmec head when we slide, dog, cause we the sheep.